Route 66 is America's South's most iconic road, stretching from Chicago to Santa Monica. Travelers have admired its neon lights, roadside diners, and the promise of adventure. But some stretches of this historic highway are haunted by more than memorisa. They are home to restless spirits. Tonight, we journey through 25 haunted motels along Route 66, places where guests have vanished, lights flicker without explanation, and whispers of the past echo through the night. These are the motels you should never stay in unless you dare. The Blue Swallow Motel in Tucumcari, New Mexico, stands as an iconic landmark along historic Route 66. Its vintage neon sign, turquoise accents, and classic 1930s architecture attract travelers from around the world. By day, the motel is a nostalgic stop for road trippers and history enthusiasts, offering a glimpse into the golden era of cross-country travel. But by night, the Blue Swallow Motel has gained a reputation that transcends its retro charm. Guests report doors opening by themselves, cold hands resting on their shoulders, and the faint, eerie laughter of children who disappeared decades ago. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site often capture orbs, shadow figures, and inexplicable movements in guest rooms, suggesting that the motel is far more than a roadside relic. It is a nexus of lingering spirits and unexplained phenomena. One of the most common experiences reported by visitors involves doors opening and closing without any visible cause. Guests have described entering their rooms only to find the door ajar, or walking down the hall when a door suddenly swings open, revealing an empty room. In some cases, the doors move slowly, as if guided by invisible hands, while in others, they slam shut with startling force. One guest recounted returning to his room after dinner to find the door wide open, despite locking it earlier. When he entered, the room appeared untouched, yet the cold draft lingering near the threshold made him shiver. These occurrences are consistent across multiple rooms and have persisted for decades, creating an unsettling sense that the motel itself is alive with unseen activity. Another frequent report involves sudden, chilling to chase a cold hands resting on guests' shoulders or brushing across their arms while they are alone. One visitor described sitting on the edge of her bed when she felt a firm, icy grip on her shoulder. She turned sharply, expecting to see a prankster or staff member, but the room was empty. Others have reported similar sensations while watching television or reading late at night, always accompanied by a subtle drop in temperature, as if the air itself carries a residual energy that responds to presence. These encounters are rarely aggressive, but the suddenness and intensity of the sensations leave guests with an undeniable sense of being observed. Perhaps the most haunting phenomena involve the faint laughter of children echoing through the hallways and rooms. Several visitors have reported hearing high-pitched giggles, footsteps, and even voices calling for parents, though no one is present. One longtime guest recounted hearing playful laughter coming from a vacant room, coupled with the sound of a ball bouncing across the floor. When he investigated, he found nothing, yet the sounds persisted long enough to convince him they were real. Locals believe these echoes are tied to children who vanished in the area decades ago, their spirits bound to the motel, replaying moments of innocence long lost to time. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to the Blue Swallow Motel, seeking to capture tangible evidence of its spectral residents. Many have reported photographing orbs of light that move unpredictably through rooms, suggestive of spiritual presence. Shadow figures are also commonly recorded, often appearing near doorways or at the foot of beds, sometimes captured on infrared cameras or motion-sensitive equipment. Investigators describe feeling sudden pressure, cold spots, and the sensation of unseen observers, reinforcing the notion that the motel is a hot spot of paranormal energy. Some guests claim that these experiences are heightened in specific rooms, particularly those closest to the original structure built in the 1930s. One guest, staying in a room at the far end of the main building, reported waking to see the shadowy outline of a child standing silently by the window. The figure vanished when he blinked, but he described the air as unusually heavy and frigid. Others have recounted seeing fleeting shapes in mirrors, hearing soft whispers that vanish when they strain to listen, and feeling an invisible presence pacing around the room while they sleep. These experiences contribute to the motel's reputation as one of the most haunted stops along Route 66. Attempts to rationalize the phenomena range from drafts and building age to the power of suggestion. Yet the consistency of reports across decades suggests something far beyond coincidence. Guests and investigators alike describe similar patterns: sudden temperature drops, unexplained sounds, fleeting shadows, and feelings of being watched. For some, these encounters are terrifying, while for others, they are thrilling, a chance to experience history in a way that transcends the physical. Doors open and close without reason. Cold hands brush against guests. And the laughter of children long gone echoes through hallways. Shadow figures and orbs appear in photographs and recordings, hinting at an unseen presence that pervades the building. For travelers seeking a glimpse into the paranormal, the motel offers an unforgettable experience. A place where history, memory, and the supernatural collide. By night, the Blue Swallow Motel becomes a liminal space, a crossroads between the living and the unseen, leaving an indelible impression on all who pass through its doors. The Wigwam Motel in Holbrook, Arizona, stands as a peculiar and iconic landmark along historic Route 66. Built in the 1950s, the motel features a unique design: individual concrete teepees arranged in a semicircle, each offering travelers a nostalgic glimpse into mid-century Americana. By day, the site is a charming stop for Route 66 enthusiasts and curious tourists. But after sunset, the Wigwam Motel transforms into a place of eerie mystery. Visitors report seeing figures in old Western attire wandering between the teepees, strange glowing lights hovering in the night, and disembodied voices echoing through the quiet desert air. Staff and long-term guests add to the lore, claiming that objects often move without explanation, further reinforcing the motel's reputation as a haunted destination. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves apparitions in Western attire. Witnesses describe men and women dressed in period clothing, cowboy hats, boots, long coats, and prairie dresses wandering between the teepees. These figures appear to be moving deliberately, sometimes stopping at the entrances of the units as if checking in, or pacing the small courtyard as if carrying out a daily routine from decades past. One guest recounted stepping outside their teepee late at night to see a man in a dusty cowboy hat standing beneath a flickering porch light. As the visitor watched, the figure slowly turned, tipping his hat, and vanished into the darkness without a trace. Others have reported seeing groups of figures walking together, seemingly unaware of the modern world around them, disappearing into thin air as they approach the motel's edge. Strange glowing lights are another frequent occurrence. Visitors often describe seeing small orbs of light hovering near the teepees, moving with intent, and then vanishing without warning. Some appear near windows or doorways, illuminating the area briefly before fading completely. A few witnesses report larger lights floating across the motel grounds, resembling lanterns carried by invisible hands. These lights are rarely explained by natural phenomena. The desert surrounding the motel is largely devoid of reflective surfaces or ambient light sources that could create such effects. In some cases, the lights seem to respond to the presence of visitors, shifting or pulsing as if aware of human observation. Disembodied voices add another layer to the paranormal reputation of the Wigwam Motel. Guests have reported hearing conversations, laughter, and murmured phrases drifting through the night, often coming from the spaces between the teepees. Some voices seem to call out names or give directions, while others resemble faint echoes of greetings and chatter from decades ago. One visitor described hearing a group of people laughing and talking just outside their teepee, only to step outside and find the area completely empty and silent. The voices sometimes overlap with the apparitions, creating the impression that the figures and the sounds are connected, replaying moments of life long past. Staff at the Wigwam Motel frequently report objects moving without explanation. Doors that were previously closed are found ajar, items placed on counters or tables are shifted, and personal belongings left unattended sometimes vanish and reappear in different locations. While some movements can be attributed to wind or animal activity, many incidents occur inside the teepees where the environment is controlled, and no logical explanation can be found. One longtime employee recounted placing a chair against the door of an empty unit, only to find it knocked over hours later, with no one in sight. These small but persistent occurrences reinforce the sense that the motel is more than just a historical attraction, it is a space alive with unseen activity. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the Wigwam Motel preserves echoes of the past, particularly of travelers and residents from the mid-20th century. Apparitions may be residual energy, replaying the routines, habits, or behaviors of those who stayed at the motel decades ago. Glowing lights could represent spiritual manifestations or beacons tied to the presence of these echoes, while disembodied voices might carry fragments of conversations, laughter, and daily life that continue to resonate within the structures. In this sense, the motel becomes a liminal space, a threshold where the living and the spectral coexist, allowing visitors to witness history through a supernatural lens. Attempts to document these experiences have met with mixed results. Photographs sometimes capture faint silhouettes or orbs, while audio recordings occasionally pick up whispers or laughter that are not present when replayed. Skeptics argue that fog, dust, and the desert environment create optical illusions or auditory misinterpretations. Yet the consistency of eyewitness accounts over the decades suggests that something unusual persists at the site. Guests report similar experiences across different teepees during both busy and quiet nights, reinforcing the perception that the phenomena are tied to the location itself rather than chance. The most vivid experiences often occur late at night, typically between midnight and 3 a.m., when the motel is quiet, the desert is still, and ambient sounds are minimal. During these hours, apparitions are seen most clearly, glowing lights appear more frequently, and voices are heard with greater clarity. Visitors often describe a sensation of time stretching, as if past and present coexist, allowing a fleeting glimpse into a forgotten era of Route 66 travel. Figures in old Western attire wander among the teepees, strange lights float through the night, and disembodied voices echo in the desert air. Objects move without explanation, leaving both guests and staff with an unsettling sense of presence. For those who visit after dark, the motel offers a portal into the past, a haunting crossroads. A haunting crossroads where history, memory, and the unexplained converge. By night, the Wigwam Motel becomes a threshold between worlds, leaving an indelible impression on all who linger. Under its neon glow and starry desert sky, the Munger Moss Motel in Lebanon, Missouri, has long been a familiar stop for travelers along historic Route 66. With its neon sign and classic mid-century architecture, the motel evokes a sense of nostalgia for the golden age of American road trips. But after dark, the Munger Moss Motel transforms into something far stranger. Guests frequently describe the sudden appearance of shadowy figures in hallways, televisions turning on by themselves, and whispers calling their names in otherwise empty rooms. A sense of unease settles over the guests as they realize they are not alone in the motel. Paranormal investigation groups who have visited the motel report cold spots along the corridors and unexplainable readings on monitoring equipment, cementing the city's reputation as a place where the line between the living and the spectral blurs. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported experiences. Guests walking along the hallways late at night often see fleeting silhouettes just beyond the reach of the overhead lights. Some describe humanoid shapes that move slowly, as though pacing or standing guard, while others report figures darting from one end of the corridor to the other before vanishing entirely. One visitor recounted stepping out of her room to grab a snack from the vending area, only to see a dark figure at the far end of the hall. When she blinked, it was gone, leaving the corridor eerily quiet and still. Others have reported similar sightings near stairwells, elevators, and doorways, creating the impression that unseen entities inhabit the motel alongside living guests. Televisions turning on by themselves are another hallmark of paranormal activity at the Munger Moss. Guests report returning to their rooms to find the TV switched to static or old programs from decades past, despite having turned it off before leaving. One man recounted entering his room late at night to find the screen glowing with an old black and white movie, the volume low but audible, even though he had left it completely powered down. These occurrences often coincide with other phenomena, such as flickering lights or sudden drops in temperature, reinforcing the sense that the motel itself is alive with unseen energy. Whispers are perhaps the most unsettling experiences. Guests report hearing their names called softly in the stillness of the night, often from locations where no one is present. One visitor described being startled awake by a voice calling her name from the hallway, only to find it empty when she investigated. Others have heard snippets of conversation or faint laughter drifting from empty rooms, sometimes accompanied by the sound of footsteps or the creaking of doors. These whispers often vanish when one tries to focus on them, leaving an eerie, lingering presence that is difficult to shake. Cold spots frequently accompany these phenomena. Paranormal investigators who have visited the motel note sudden, localized drops in temperature along the corridors and near rooms where guests report experiences. One team recorded readings dropping by more than 10 degrees in seconds, with no explanation in the HVAC system or external weather conditions. Guests report walking through these areas and feeling a distinct chill, often described as a presentia brushing past them. These cold spots appear at random, adding to the unpredictability and intensity of the haunting. The Munger Moss Motel's paranormal activity appears to be concentrated in specific areas, particularly the older wings of the building constructed during the height of Route 66 travel. Long-term guests and staff report that the hallways in these sections feel different, almost heavier, with a sense of being observed even when the corridors are empty. Objects such as chairs, magazines, and personal belongings sometimes shift positions or vanish entirely, only to reappear later, reinforcing the notion that unseen entities are interacting with the physical space. Paranormal experts suggest that the Munger Moss Motel may act as a repository of energy, preserving the echoes of past travelers who passed through its rooms and hallways. Shadowy figures may be residual impressions, replaying the movements of guests from decades past. Televisions turning on unexpectedly could be a form of interaction, an attempt by spirits to communicate or relive moments tied to the motel. Whispers might carry fragments of conversations, greetings, or warnings from individuals who once stayed there. In this interpretation, the motel functions as a living archive of memory, history, and residual energy. Allowing visitors to witness moments of the past in spectral form. Attempts to document these occurrences have yielded varied results. Photographs occasionally capture vague silhouettes or unexplained shadows, while audio recordings sometimes reveal whispers or distant voices not present in real time. Skeptics attribute these phenomena to imagination, electrical faults, or natural drafts. Yet the consistency of eyewitness accounts across decades and between multiple rooms suggests a pattern that defies simple explanation. Guests consistently report similar experiences regardless of time of year or weather, indicating that the unusual activity is tied to the location itself. The most intense experiences occur during the quietest hours, typically between midnight and 3 a.m., when the motel is largely empty and external noise fades away. During these times, shadowy figures are seen more clearly, whispers carry farther, and cold spots are most pronounced. Visitors often describe a sensation of time bending, where past and present overlap, providing a fleeting glimpse into the motel's long and storied history. The Munger Moss Motel in Lebanon, Missouri, is more than just a nostalgic stop along Route 66. Shadowy figures appear in the hallways, televisions switch on without explanation, whispers drift through empty rooms, and cold spots chill guests without warning. Staff and paranormal investigators continue to document unexplained movements and energy readings, reinforcing the motel's reputation as a place where the living and the spectral coexist. For late-night visitors, the Munger Moss Motel becomes a threshold into the unseen, a haunting space where history, memory, and the paranormal converge, leaving an unforgettable impression on all who pass through its doors. The El Rancho Motel in Gallup, New Mexico, stands as one of the most storied stops along historic Route 66. Built in 1937, it quickly became a hub for Hollywood stars traveling to and from nearby film shoots, earning a reputation as the home of the movie stars. By day, the motel remains a nostalgic reminder of Hollywood's golden era, drawing tourists, Route 66 enthusiasts, and history buffs. But by night, El Rancho Motel has become a center for inexplicable phenomena. Guests report ghostly actors replaying scenes from the past, strange knocking sounds echoing through empty hallways, and lights flickering even during power outages. Paranormal investigators have documented these occurrences, confirming that the motel is far more than a relic. It is a stage for lingering spirits and spectral memories. The most compelling reports involve apparitions of Hollywood actors from decades past. Guests and staff describe seeing figures in vintage film costumes walking along the hallways, lounging in the lobby, or standing in courtyards as if awaiting a scene to begin. One guest reported stepping outside her room late at night to see a man dressed in a cowboy outfit, hat tipped low, pacing across the patio. Moments later, a woman in a flowing 1940s gown appeared beside him, walking slowly before vanishing into the shadows. These ghostly figures often seem oblivious to the living, replaying gestures, conversations, and movements from their lives long ago. Some visitors describe feeling an eerie presence, as if the actors are aware of their observation, yet continue performing the same motions in an endless loop of memory. Strange knocking sounds are another hallmark of the El Rancho Motel's paranormal activity. Guests frequently report hearing raps and thuds coming from walls, ceilings, and doors, particularly in the older sections of the building. The sounds often occur late at night, waking travelers from deep sleep or startling those walking down hallways. One visitor recounted hearing a series of rhythmic knocks on the door of her room, as if someone on the other side was counting out a message. When she cautiously opened the door, the hallway was empty, and the sounds ceased. Staff have confirmed hearing similar noises during quiet hours, attributing them to no mechanical or structural causes. These knocks often coincide with other phenomena, such as the appearance of apparitions or sudden drops in temperature, creating an atmosphere of heightened tension and unease. Lights flickering without explanation are another frequent experience at El Rancho. Guests have described bulbs pulsing, chandeliers swinging, and neon signs dimming and brightening unpredictably. Some occurrences take place during power outages, where no electricity is flowing to the fixtures, suggesting a source beyond normal electrical failure. One overnight visitor recalled seeing the lights in the lobby flash in a specific rhythm, almost as if signaling a message, before stabilizing again. Others have reported witnessing lights tracing the movement of unseen figures along corridors, enhancing the feeling that the motel itself is alive with residual energy. Using infrared cameras, motion sensors, and audio recording devices, they have captured unexplained orbs of light, shadow figures, and sudden temperature drops in hallways and rooms. Paranormal investigators who have visited El Rancho have corroborated many of these experiences. Many investigators note the concentration of activity in the areas of the motel historically associated with film star stays, particularly suites and patios where famous actors once gathered. Some suggest that the motel acts as a repository for the memories and energy of those who passed through it, allowing fragments of past performances and personal moments to persist in the present. Visitors often describe physical sensations accompanying the visual and auditory phenomena. Cold drafts sweep across rooms, sudden pressure is felt on shoulders or backs, and an overwhelming sense of being watched pervades hallways. One guest recalled sitting in the lounge reading a book when she felt a hand brush against hers, though no one was present. Others have described a similar feeling of presence near doors and windows, particularly in areas where ghostly actors have been sighted. These physical manifestations, combined with the visual and auditory evidence, create a fully immersive experience that blurs the line between reality and memory. The El Rancho Motel's haunting is not merely frightening. For many, it is also deeply evocative, as if they are witnessing history replaying itself in a private spectral theater. The rhythmic knocking and the flickering lights all contribute to an atmosphere. Some guests leave offerings, such as flowers or notes, in the hope of connecting with the spirits lingering on the property. Attempts to document these phenomena have yielded varied results. Photographs occasionally reveal faint silhouettes in hallways or courtyards. Skeptics often attribute the experiences to imagination, structural noises, or the motel's age. Yet the consistency of reports across decades and the persistence of activity in specific areas suggests something far more mysterious. Whether manifestations are residual echoes of past lives or interactive spirits, they create an enduring sense of the supernatural. The El Rancho Motel in Gallup, New Mexico, is more than a historic Route 66 stop. Ghostly actors wander hallways and courtyards, knocking sounds echo from empty rooms, and lights flicker unpredictably, sometimes in the dead of night. Staff and visitors alike recount physical sensations, shadowy figures, and auditory phenomena that defy rational explanation. By night, the motel transforms into a spectral theater where the golden age of Hollywood continues to play, leaving guests with an unforgettable glimpse into a past that refuses to stay silent, a place where memory, history, and the paranormal converge beneath the desert stars. The Oasis Motel in Amarillo, Texas, sits along the historic Route 66 corridor, offering weary travelers a place to rest with a touch of mid-century charm. With its neon sign and classic roadside architecture, the motel is a nostalgic stop for road trippers and history enthusiasts. Yet beyond its welcoming FAA Section A, the Oasis Motel has gained a reputation as a hotspot for unexplained activity. Guests report apparitions of former visitors, shadowy figures roaming the parking lots, and doors slamming shut without any wind or human intervention. Night staff have recounted hearing phantom footsteps echoing along empty floors, and the eerie presence felt throughout the property has cemented the Motel's status as a haunted location. Many visitors report encountering ghostly apparitions resembling former guests. These figures are often seen walking down hallways, entering or exiting rooms, or sitting quietly in chairs in the lobby. One guest recounted stepping out of her room late at night to see a man in a 1950s-style suit slowly pacing across the corridor, his figure fading in and out as she watched. Another reported seeing a woman in a long dress standing at the far end of the hall, appearing to peer into an empty room before vanishing into the shadows. The apparitions do not interact directly with the living, yet their presence is unmistakable, leaving visitors with the unsettling sense that the motel is a crossroads where the past lingers. Shadowy figures are frequently reported outside in the parking lots. Travelers have described seeing silhouettes moving between parked cars, sometimes pausing to observe the motel or the street beyond. One visitor recounted waiting for her car when she noticed a dark figure standing near a lamppost, motionless and silently watching her. Moments later, the figure was gone, leaving only the dim glow of the streetlight to illuminate the asphalt. These outdoor sightings are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, the feeling of unseen eyes, and fleeting shadows that vanish the instant they are approached. The consistency of these reports across multiple nights and guests suggests that the motel grounds themselves are permeated with residual energy from years of past occupants. Doors slamming without wind or human intervention are another hallmark of the Oasis Motel's hauntings. Guests report returning to their rooms to find doors closed forcefully behind them or doors that were left open swinging shut on their own. Similar occurrences have been documented in the hallways, where staff hear doors knocking against walls or closing suddenly with a force that seems almost deliberate. One night, a couple awoke to the sound of their room door slamming repeatedly, despite no one being present and the windows tightly shut. These unexplained movements often coincide with other paranormal phenomena, such as ghostly apparitions or flickering lights, amplifying the sense that the motel is alive with unseen activity. Night staff are particularly familiar with the motel's spectral residents. Housekeepers, maintenance workers, and security personnel have all reported phantom footsteps echoing along floors long after the building has emptied. One night clerk recounted hearing slow, deliberate steps outside the office, pacing back and forth, stopping abruptly, and then retreating down the hall all without any actual presence in the building. Others describe the feeling of being followed or watched while moving through empty corridors, a sensation that grows more intense during the late hours of the night. These experiences suggest that the motel's activity is not limited to guests alone, but extends to all who spend time within its walls after dark. Using cameras, motion sensors, and temperature gauges, they have documented sudden cold spots, unexplained shadows, and anomalies in video recordings. Some investigators theorize that the motel acts as a repository for residual energy from past guests, their daily movements and interactions imprinting themselves on the environment over decades. Apparitions may be echoes of these past presences, replaying brief fragments of life in a continuous loop that occasionally intersects with the living. Visitors often describe the experiences as simultaneously eerie and mesmerizing. Seeing a ghostly figure glide down a hallway or witnessing a door slam without explanation evokes both fear and awe. Some guests are frightened enough to leave immediately, while others stay, hoping to catch a glimpse of the unexplained and to experience the Motels' unique energy firsthand. Those who linger often report heightened awareness of the environment, feeling connected to the history of travelers who passed through the motel over the years. The Oasis Motels' haunting is not limited to isolated events. Reports of apparitions, shadowy figures, slamming doors, and phantom footsteps occur across multiple rooms, hallways, and even outside on the property, indicating a pervasive presence rather than occasional disturbances. Guests consistently report similar experiences, regardless of season, room location, or occupancy, pointing to the motel itself as a conduit for these phenomena. For those who venture to the Oasis Motel in Amarillo, Texas, the experience is far more than a simple overnight stay. Apparitions of former guests roam the hallways, shadowy figures appear in the parking lots, doors slam without explanation, and phantom footsteps echo along empty floors. Staff and visitors alike bear witness to phenomena that defy logical explanation, leaving an indelible impression of a place where the past continues to walk alongside the present. The Oasis Motel becomes a space where memory, history, and the unexplained converge, providing travelers not only a stop along Route 66, but a chilling glimpse into the lingering echoes of those who once passed through its doors. The Motel Safari in Albuquerque, New Mexico, sits along the historic Route 66 corridor, offering travelers a retro-style experience with neon signage and classic southwestern architecture. By day, it is a vibrant stop for tourists and road trippers, evoking nostalgia for mid-century motels. However, by night, the Motel Safari has gained a reputation for inexplicable occurrences. Guests report strange laughter echoing through empty halls, figures appearing in mirrors, and footsteps reverberating along vacant corridors. Paranormal investigators who have visited the property have detected cold air pockets, electronic disturbances, and other anomalies, reinforcing the Motels' reputation as a place where the living and the spectral intersect. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Motel Safari is the strange laughter that seems to come from nowhere. Guests describe hearing soft, eerie giggles or chuckles late at night, often just outside their rooms or drifting from the hallways. One visitor recalled sitting in her room watching television when she distinctly heard laughter coming from the corridor. Curious, she stepped out to investigate, but the hallway was empty and silent. Other guests report similar experiences. Sometimes the laughter sounds like children playing, while other times it is more sinister, echoing as if bouncing from wall to wall. The sounds often appear to vanish abruptly, leaving a lingering sense of unease. Figures appearing in mirrors are another unsettling aspect of the Motel Safari's haunting. Guests have reported seeing shadowy silhouettes, partial reflections, or entire figures standing behind them when no one is present. One visitor described brushing his teeth in the bathroom late at night and catching a glimpse of a tall figure in the mirror, wearing clothing that seemed decades old. When he spun around, the bathroom was empty. Others have seen fleeting reflections of people walking past doors or in hallways behind them, only to find no one there when they turned to look. These mirror sightings suggest a connection between the motel and a world unseen, where past occupants or lingering spirits can manifest in reflective surfaces. Footsteps echoing across empty hallways are also commonly reported. Guests and staff alike recount hearing the deliberate pacing of someone walking on carpeting or tile, even when the corridors are deserted. One night clerk described walking down a long hallway when he heard slow, steady footsteps following him from behind. He stopped, and the footsteps halted. When he continued walking, they resumed, mimicking his movements exactly before fading into silence. These auditory phenomena create an intense sense of presence, leaving guests with the impression that unseen residents share the space, moving unseen yet distinctly felt. Paranormal investigators visiting Motel Safari have documented physical manifestations of unexplained activity. Cold air pockets appear without any apparent source, often in specific hallways, rooms, or near mirrors. Guests walking through these pockets report an immediate chill, sometimes accompanied by goosebumps or a shiver of fear. Electronic disturbances are also common, with TVs turning on by themselves, lights flickering, and radios emitting static even when powered off. Investigators suggest that these anomalies indicate an energetic presence capable of interacting with the physical environment, further supporting claims of paranormal activity. The Motels' haunting seems concentrated in certain areas, particularly in the older sections of the building. Guests staying in rooms along the north wing report more frequent sightings and unusual experiences, including the laughter, shadowy figures, and footsteps. Staff note that these sections of the motel often feel heavier, as though a residual energy has settled there over decades. Some researchers theorize that these hauntings are residual echoes of past events, while others believe they represent active spirits capable of interacting with living guests. Visitors often describe a mixture of fear and fascination when experiencing these phenomena. Seeing a figure in a mirror, hearing laughter in an empty hallway, or feeling an invisible presence can be terrifying. Yesterday's guests are drawn to the motel safari precisely because of its reputation. Some bring recording equipment or cameras in the hope of capturing evidence, while others simply observe and absorb the unusual atmosphere. For many, the experience is immersive, creating a connection between the present and the motel's long history along Route 66. Reports of paranormal activity at Motel Safari are consistent across multiple decades, suggesting that the occurrences are not isolated incidents. Guests of all ages, along with staff and investigators, describe similar experiences, reinforcing the notion that the motel itself is a conduit for unexplained energy. These experiences occur regardless of the season or external weather conditions, indicating a source of activity that is tied directly to the property. Motel Safari in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is more than just a stop along a historic highway. Strange laughter echoes through empty hallways. Ghostly figures appear in mirrors, and footsteps reverberate across deserted corridors. Cold air pockets chill unsuspecting visitors, and electronic disturbances unsettle both guests and staff. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous anomalies, confirming that the motel is a hotspot for spectral activity. For late-night travelers, the Motel Safari offers not just a place to rest, but an encounter with the unseen. A location where history, memory, and the paranormal intersect, leaving an indelible impression that lasts long after dawn breaks. The Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba, Missouri, is a long-standing stop along historic Route 66, attracting travelers with its retro charm and nostalgic roadside appeal. However, beyond its welcoming exterior, the Wagon Wheel Motel has become known for inexplicable occurrences that have left both guests and staff unsettled. Lights flicker and turn on or off without explanation, doors open suddenly, and voices calling for help echo from empty rooms. Shadowy figures have been reported watching from windows, giving the impression that the motel is inhabited not only by the living, but also by lingering presences from the past. Guests frequently report lights behaving oddly. Lamps, ceiling fixtures, and neon signs often turn on or off without any apparent cause, leaving visitors in sudden darkness or illumination. One night, a guest described entering her room to find the overhead light swinging slightly, though there was no breeze or mechanical issue to explain it. Moments later, it abruptly shut off, plunging the room into darkness before flickering back to life. Other guests have reported entire hallways suddenly illuminated or plunged into darkness, often in coordination with other strange phenomena. The unpredictable lighting creates a sense of unease, as if the building itself is aware of its occupants and reacts to their presence. Doors opening suddenly is another common experience at the Wagon Wheel Motel. Visitors have described entering rooms to find doors ajar that they had firmly closed, or hearing a door swing open from down the hallway when no one was around. One overnight guest recounted waking to the sound of her room door creaking open, accompanied by a chilling gust of air. She found the hallway empty, with no one nearby to account for the movement. Staff members echo similar experiences, noting that certain rooms seem more prone to this activity than others, suggesting that some areas of the motel may be more closely tied to the paranormal presence. Perhaps the most unsettling phenomenon reported at the Wagon Wheel Motel is the sound of voices calling for help. Guests have described hearing muffled cries or desperate pleas coming from empty rooms, often in the middle of the night. One guest described hearing a woman's voice calling her name from a room across the hall, only to find it completely unoccupied when she checked. Others have reported hearing conversations, whispers, or urgent cries emanating from rooms that have been locked or vacant for years. These auditory experiences evoke both fear and sympathy, leaving visitors with the impression that something or something is trapped or seeking assistance. Shadowy figures appearing in windows add a visual element to the motel's haunting. Guests and passers-by have reported seeing indistinct silhouettes watching from the glass panes of rooms or hallways. Some of these figures appear motionless, while others seem to move slowly before vanishing. One visitor recalled parking outside late at night and noticing a dark shape standing at a second-floor window, staring down at the lot. When he blinked, the figure had disappeared. Paranormal investigators have taken an interest in the Wagon Wheel Motel due to the consistency and intensity of reported activity. Using cameras, audio recorders, and temperature sensors, they have documented unexplained lights, sudden door movements, and mysterious cold spots. Many investigators theorize that the motel functions as a repository for residual energy, capturing the memories, emotions, and experiences of past visitors and staff. Apparitions and voices may be manifestations of this energy, replaying fragments of past events in a loop that occasionally intersects with the present. When encountering the motel's unexplained phenomena, hearing cries for help, or experiencing sudden lights and doors creates, and the supernatural, while others return repeatedly, drawn by the allure of the paranormal. These experiences foster a connection between the present, to feel part of a narrative that extends beyond the ordinary. Reports of haunting at the Wagon Wheel Motel are widespread and consistent across decades. Guests of varying ages, staff, and investigators alike have documented similar experiences, suggesting that the property itself is the source of the activity. The combination of visual, auditory, and environmental phenomena lights, doors, voices, and shadowy figures creates a comprehensive and enduring presence that has defined the motel's reputation. The Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba, Missouri, offers more than a night's stay along Route 66. Lights flicker mysteriously, doors swing open without cause, and voices echo from vacant rooms, calling out to those who pass through. The Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba, Missouri, offers more than a night's stay along Route 66. Lights flicker mysteriously, doors swing open without cause, and voices echo from vacant rooms, calling out to those who pass through. Shadowy figures watch from windows, and the building itself seems to pulse with residual energy from the past. Guests, staff, and investigators alike have witnessed these occurrences, making the motel a compelling destination for those seeking a brush with the paranormal. Beyond its historical and architectural appeal, the Wagon Wheel Motel stands as a place where memory, history, and the supernatural converge, leaving an unforgettable impression on all who enter. The Litchfield Motel in Litchfield, Illinois, is a modest roadside stop along historic Route 66, offering travelers a nostalgic glimpse into mid-20th century Americana. Its neon sign flickers in the evening, advertising simple rooms and homey comforts, but behind its welcoming exterior lies a reputation for strange and unsettling occurrences. Guests have reported seeing phantoms dressed in 1940s attire, objects moving without explanation, and doors slowly opening in the dead of night. Paranormal investigators visiting the property have captured EVP recordings of ghostly whispers, adding to the motel's growing notoriety as a haunted location where the past lingers in subtle yet unnerving ways. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Litchfield Motel is the appearance of phantoms dressed in 1940s clothing. Guests have described seeing men in suits and fedoras walking the hallways, women in long dresses standing at the end of corridors, and couples moving silently across the lobby. These apparitions often appear briefly and vanish before any interaction can occur, leaving visitors with a chilling sense of having glimpsed a bygone era. One guest recalled stepping out of her room late at night to see a man leaning against a wall, lighting a cigarette. By the time she blinked, he had disappeared, leaving only a faint smell of smoke in the air. Others have reported seeing figures enter rooms that had been long vacated, leaving behind an eerie sense of presence even when the space is empty. Objects moving without explanation is another frequent occurrence at the Litchfield Motel. Guests have described personal items disappearing from dressers, chairs shifting across rooms, and even luggage sliding or tipping over as if guided by invisible hands. One night, a traveler reported leaving his briefcase on a table in the lobby only to return a few minutes later and find it lying on the floor, untouched but clearly displaced. Staff members have experienced similar events, including chairs scraping along the floor when no one is nearby and doors that seem to shift slightly on their own hinges. These subtle movements create an unsettling atmosphere, suggesting that the motel itself is alive with residual energy. Doors opening slowly in the middle of the night contribute to the motel's reputation for paranormal activity. Guests frequently report awakening to the sound of doors creaking open on their own, accompanied by the sensation of a cold draft. One visitor described hearing her room door gradually swing open while she slept, followed by the faintest whisper, only for the door to close again moments later. Hallway doors also exhibit this behavior, with guests and staff noting that they often move slowly and deliberately, as if guided by an unseen presence. The combination of sound, movement, and chill creates a deeply immersive experience that leaves occupants feeling watched, yet entirely alone. Paranormal investigators have taken a special interest in the Litchfield Motel due to the consistency and intensity of these reported experiences. Using EVP recorders, motion-sensitive cameras, and temperature sensors, investigators have documented a range of anomalies. Whispered voices captured in recordings often seem to respond to questions or repeat fragments of words spoken by investigators. Cold spots and unexplained shifts in ambient temperature are also common, further reinforcing the impression that a supernatural presence inhabits the property. Investigators theorize that the Litchfield Motel acts as a repository for residual energy, capturing echoes of past events and people who once passed through its halls. Guests describe a mixture of fear and fascination when encountering these phenomena. Seeing a ghostly figure dressed in 1940s clothing or witnessing objects move seemingly on their own evokes a visceral reaction, yet many are drawn to the motel precisely because of its paranormal reputation. Some travelers stay awake late into the night, hoping to observe unusual activity, while others retreat quickly to the perceived safety of their rooms. Despite the fear, these experiences often leave a lasting impression, creating a sense of connection to the history and stories embedded within the motel's walls. The haunting at the Litchfield Motel appears to be concentrated in certain areas, particularly in the older sections of the building. Guests staying in these rooms report more frequent sightings, unexplained movements, and odd sounds compared to newer additions. Staff also note that hallways and rooms in the original wing of the motel feel a heavier or more oppressive, as if residual energy has settled over decades. Reports of hauntings at the Litchfield Motel have persisted for decades, with stories from guests, staff, and investigators aligning closely across generations. The combination of visual, auditory, and environmental phenomena phantoms, objects moving, doors opening, and ghostly whispersa creates a pervasive and enduring presence throughout the property. Visitors from all walks of life have documented these occurrences, reinforcing the motel's reputation as one of Route 66A's most haunted stops. The Litchfield Motel in Litchfield, Illinois, is more than just a roadside accommodation. Phantoms in 1940s attire glide silently through corridors, objects shift without explanation, and doors open slowly in the night. Whispered voices captured in EVP recordings add an auditory dimension to the haunting, confirming that the motel is home to a persistent, unseen presence. For travelers along Route 66, the Litchfield Motel offers more than lodginga. It provides an encounter with history, memory, and the supernatural, leaving an indelible impression that lingers long after guests depart. The Sunset Motel in Springfield, Missouri, is a classic roadside establishment along the old Route 66, offering weary travelers a place to rest amidst the nostalgic charm of neon signs and vintage architecture. By day, the motel appears ordinary, welcoming guests with standard amenities and retro charm. However, as night falls, many visitors report eerie and unexplainable phenomena that have given the motel a reputation for paranormal activity. Shadowy figures standing in corners, muffled cries from unoccupied rooms, and lights flickering on and off at midnight are common experiences, leaving guests both unnerved and intrigued. One of the most frequent reports from visitors involves shadowy figures appearing in the corners of hallways or rooms. Guests have described catching glimpses of dark silhouettes just out of the corner of their eyes, only to find the space empty when they turn to look directly. One traveler recounted entering the lobby late at night and noticing a dark figure leaning against the far wall. When she blinked, the figure had vanished, leaving an inexplicable chill in the air. Staff members have echoed similar experiences, noting that these figures sometimes linger near stairwells or doorways, only to disappear when approached. These fleeting apparitions give the impression that unseen entities are observing, silently present but just beyond reach. Muffled cries from unoccupied rooms are another unsettling phenomenon at the Sunset Motel. Guests report hearing faint pleas or sobbing coming from rooms that are empty, locked, or long vacated. One night, a man staying on the second floor awoke to the sound of a woman softly calling for help from the room next door. When he checked, no one was there, and the door remained firmly closed. Others have reported hearing conversations, laughter, or whispered warnings emanating from vacant rooms, as if the past residents of the motel were attempting to communicate with the living. These auditory experiences create a sense of both fear and empathy, leaving guests unsettled and alert throughout the night. Lights flickering on and off at midnight are another recurring feature of the Motel's hauntings. Guests have described hallways plunging into darkness, only to be illuminated moments later by overhead lights or wall sconces. One guest reported returning to his room at midnight to find the bedside lamp flickering wildly, casting long, dancing shadows across the walls. Another described walking down the hallway when every light along the corridor abruptly turned off, plunging him into total darkness. These electrical disturbances often coincide with other paranormal activity, suggesting that the phenomena may be linked to an unseen presence capable of influencing the environment. Paranormal investigators have frequently visited the Sunset Motel to document these occurrences. Using temperature sensors, motion detectors, and audio recorders, they have captured anomalies consistent with guest reports. Cold spots frequently appear in hallways and rooms, often accompanied by a feeling of being watched. EVP recordings have captured faint whispers, cries, and unexplained noises, confirming that these experiences are not purely imaginative. Investigators speculate that the motel may serve as a residual energy site, where emotions and events from the past linger, occasionally intersecting with the present to manifest as visual, auditory, or environmental phenomena. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. Guests staying in rooms near the original wing or along the upper floors report more frequent sightings of shadowy figures, muffled cries, and flickering lights. Staff members have noted that these sections of the motel often feel heavier, as though the energy present is denser or more pronounced. Some researchers suggest that these patterns indicate that the hauntings are tied to specific events or histories associated with these areas, leaving lingering echoes of the past for current occupants to experience. Despite the fear these phenomena provoke, many guests are drawn to the Sunset Motel for its paranormal reputation. Some visitors come hoping to witness activity firsthand, bringing cameras and recording devices to capture any evidence. Others are intrigued by the history of the property, curious to connect with the lives and experiences of those who once stayed there. The mixture of fear, fascination, and historical curiosity creates a unique atmosphere, making the motel a destination for both travelers and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The hauntings at the Sunset Motel are not isolated incidents. Reports from multiple generations of guests, staff, and investigators consistently describe similar experiences: shadowy figures, muffled cries, and flickering lights. These occurrences have become part of the motel's identity, offering a blend of Route 66 nostalgia and supernatural intrigue. Visitors often leave with a heightened sense of awareness, a lingering chill, and stories that will be retold for years to come. The Sunset Motel in Springfield, Missouri, offers more than a night's stay. Shadowy figures stand silently in corners, muffled cries emanate from empty rooms, and lights flicker at midnight, creating an atmosphere charged with unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have documented these phenomena, lending credibility to the experiences of countless guests. For travelers along historic Route 66, the Sunset Motel provides not only comfort and nostalgia, but also a glimpse into the mysterious and unexplained, where the past lingers and the unseen watches silently. The Santa Fe Motel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is a modest roadside stop that has long catered to travelers exploring the scenic landscapes and historic charm of the region. Its adobe-style architecture and warm southwestern copyright COR provide an inviting atmosphere during the day, but as night falls, the motel becomes a place of unusual and unsettling phenomena. Guests have reported cold hands brushing past them, shadowy figures vanishing in hallways, and whispered voices speaking in languages no one can understand. These experiences have earned the Santa Fe Motel a reputation as a haunted site, where the past and the present intersect in eerie and inexplicable ways. One of the most frequently reported experiences at the Santa Fe Motel is the sensation of cold hands brushing against guests. Many visitors recount waking in the middle of the night to the feeling of a sudden chill, as if someone invisible had touched their shoulder or hand. Some describe the sensation as brief but startling, while others report a persistent touch that seems to follow them through the hallway or room. One guest recalled entering her room after a late-night walk and feeling a cold hand graze her arm as she reached for the light switch, though no one was present. These experiences are often accompanied by an eerie sense of being observed, even in the quietest moments of the night. Shadowy figures appearing and disappearing in hallways are another common phenomenon at the Santa Fe Motel. Guests frequently report glimpsing silhouettes in the corners of their eyes, only for the shapes to vanish when looked at directly. These experiences are often accompanied by an eerie sense of being observed, even in the quietest moments of the night. Shadowy figures appearing and disappearing in hallways are another common phenomenon at the Santa Fe Motel. Guests frequently report glimpsing silhouettes in the corners of their eyes, only for the shapes to vanish when looked at directly. One visitor described walking down a dimly lit hallway and noticing a figure standing at the end, dressed in old-fashioned clothing. By the time he reached the spot, the figure had dissolved into thin air, leaving only the faint outline of its presence in his memory. Staff members have also reported seeing fleeting shadows moving through hallways, particularly during late-night shifts when the motel is nearly empty. These encounters create an unsettling feeling that the building itself may be home to lingering spirits or residual energy from past events. Perhaps the most mysterious and chilling aspect of the Santa Fe Motel's hauntings is the presence of voices speaking in languages no living person on the premises seems to know. Guests have described hearing faint whispers while alone in their rooms or in the hallways, sometimes repeating phrases or names that are unintelligible. One visitor recounted hearing a conversation in a foreign-sounding tongue echoing through the room, only to discover that the space was completely empty. Others have reported hearing these whispers in the early hours of the morning, when the motel is silent except for the sound of wind outside. These auditory phenomena contribute to the sense of otherworldliness, leaving guests with the impression that the motel is inhabited by entities from a time or place beyond their comprehension. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Santa Fe Motel due to the variety and consistency of reports. Using temperature sensors, audio recorders, and night vision cameras, investigators have documented sudden drops in temperature, unexplained movement, and voices captured on electronic devices. Many recordings contain faint whispers, unintelligible phrases, or soft footsteps that correspond with the experiences described by guests. Investigators theorize that the motel may act as a conduit for spiritual energy, with the building itself amplifying the presence of spirits or entities that continue to linger long after the living have left. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. Guests staying near the older wing or along the second-floor corridors report more frequent sightings of shadows, sensations of touch, and whispering voices. Staff have observed similar patterns, noting that these locations often feel heavier or more oppressive than other areas of the property. Some paranormal experts suggest that these patterns indicate that the hauntings are tied to past events, memories, or energies associated with specific parts of the building, leaving echoes of the past for current guests to experience. Despite the fear these phenomena provoke, many guests are drawn to the Santa Fe Motel for its haunted reputation. Some travelers stay awake late at night, hoping to witness a ghostly figure or hear the mysterious whispers firsthand. Others are captivated by the historical and cultural backdrop of Santa Fe, seeking to connect with the stories embedded in the motel's walls. Whether approached with curiosity or trepidation, the paranormal experiences leave an indelible impression, creating a unique interaction between visitors and the motel's unseen inhabitants. The hauntings at the Santa Fe Motel are not isolated incidents. Reports from guests, staff, and investigators consistently describe similar experiences. Cold hands brushing against the living, shadowy figures appearing and vanishing, and voices speaking in unknown languages. The convergence of visual, tactile, and auditory phenomena makes the motel a rich site for paranormal observation, where multiple senses are engaged by forces beyond ordinary explanation. Visitors from across the country have documented their encounters, ensuring that the Santa Fe Motel remains a well-known stop for those seeking both lodging and a brush with the supernatural. The Santa Fe Motel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is more than a place to rest during a journey. This is more than a place to rest during a journey. The Santa Fe Motel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is more than a place to rest during a journey. Cold hands brush past guests, shadowy figures vanish in hallways, and whispers in unknown languages fill the air. Paranormal investigators have documented these occurrences, confirming what countless visitors have felt firsthand. For travelers seeking a unique experience along historic Route 66 or a chilling encounter with the unexplained, the Santa Fe Motel offers both comfort and a direct connection to the enigmatic and otherworldly, where the past continues to linger and watch in silence. The Shamrock Motel in Shamrock, Texas, sits quietly along historic Route 66, its neon sign flickering in the night and casting a warm, nostalgic glow over the parking lot. By day, it appears as a simple roadside stop, welcoming travelers with classic Americana charm and comfortable accommodations. But as evening falls, the motel takes on a different character. Guests and locals alike report strange and unsettling phenomena, most notably a ghostly woman in 1950s attire wandering the parking lot, mysterious knocking sounds at doors, and apparitions appearing in reflective surfaces. These experiences have given the Shamrock Motel a reputation as one of the more haunted stops along the iconic highway. The most frequently reported apparition is that of a woman dressed in the fashion of the 1950s, complete with a knee-length skirt, fitted blouse, and neatly styled hair. Witnesses often describe her as standing silently in the parking lot or slowly walking between cars, her expression somber and distant. One guest recounted leaving for dinner only to see a woman standing near the edge of the lot, illuminated by the dim glow of the neon sign. When he blinked or took a step closer, she was gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of perfume and a lingering sense of sadness. Staff members have also noticed her presence, particularly late at night, with some reporting that she appears more often on nights when the motel is nearly empty, as if drawn to quiet, solitary spaces. Knocking sounds at doors are another hallmark of the motel's strange occurrences. Guests frequently report hearing a rhythmic tapping or loud knock while alone in their rooms, often when no one else is present. Some describe knocking that begins softly and then grows louder, stopping abruptly as if someone or something has lost interest. One visitor, staying in a second-floor room, reported being awakened at midnight by a series of firm knocks at her door. When she opened it, the hallway was empty, and no other guests were in sight. These auditory experiences are unsettling because they seem purposeful, as if the presence behind them is attempting to communicate or capture attention. Apparitions appearing in reflective surfaces are another frequently reported phenomenon at the Shamrock Motel. Guests have seen shadowy figures or faces in mirrors, windows, and even the glossy surfaces of tables. One visitor described washing her hands in the bathroom late at night when a figure appeared in the mirror behind her, dressed in vintage clothing. When she turned to look directly, the reflection was gone, leaving only her own startled expression. Another guest noticed a shadow passing behind the front desk window, moving across the room in a way that suggested intention rather than random trickery of light. These experiences create a heightened sense of unease, as reflections are usually considered safe and familiar, yet in the motel they seem to harbor the unknown. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Shamrock Motel due to the consistency and intensity of these reports. Using motion sensors, night vision cameras, and EVP recorders, they have documented cold spots, unexplained movements, and voices captured on electronic devices. Many recordings feature faint footsteps, whispers, or taps corresponding with the reported knocking at doors. Investigators speculate that the motel may act as a residual energy site, preserving traces of past lives and events that occasionally manifest to the living. The apparition of the woman in 1950s attire, in particular, is considered a persistent presence, likely tied to a historical event or personal story that remains embedded in the property. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. The parking lot, especially near the older wing of rooms, is frequently cited by guests and staff as a location for sightings of the ghostly woman. Interior corridors near reflective surfaces of bathroom mirrors, glass-top tables, and lobby windows also show higher instances of apparitions and unexplained phenomena. These patterns suggest that the hauntings may be localized, tied to specific spaces where emotional energy or memory has left a strong imprint over time. Despite the unsettling nature of these experiences, many travelers are drawn to the Shamrock Motel for its haunted reputation. Some visitors hope to witness paranormal activity firsthand, bringing cameras or audio recorders in anticipation of capturing a glimpse of the unknown. Others are drawn by curiosity, eager to explore the historical Route 66 stop and its mysterious history. Guests often leave with a mixture of fear and fascination, recounting their experiences to friends and family, thereby perpetuating the legend of the haunted motel. The hauntings at the Shamrock Motel are not isolated events, but a pattern of recurring phenomena experienced over decades. Shadowy figures, knocks at doors, and apparitions in reflective surfaces have been reported by guests and staff alike, creating a consistent narrative of a supernatural presence. Whether the source is residual energy, a spirit tied to the motel's history, or a combination of both. These experiences give the motel a unique and eerie character among the many stops along Route 66. The Shamrock Motel in Shamrock, Texas, offers more than lodging along the historic highway. Shadowy figures in vintage attire wander the parking lot. Unexplained knocks echo through empty rooms, and apparitions appear in mirrors and windows, leaving guests with a lingering sense of the past reaching into the present. Paranormal investigators have documented these phenomena, confirming what countless visitors have felt firsthand. For travelers seeking both history and a brush with the supernatural, the Shamrock Motel provides a chilling yet unforgettable experience, where the echoes of another time continue to haunt the present. The Red Carpet Inn in Tulsa, Oklahoma, sits quietly off a bustling highway, appearing at first glance to be a standard roadside motel catering to travelers and long-haul drivers. During the day, the neon sign glows warmly, and the modest rooms offer comfort and convenience for visitors. However, as night falls, guests have reported doors opening while they sleep, shadowy figures watching from corners, and footsteps pacing empty hallways late at night. Paranormal experts have investigated the property, capturing shadow forms on camera and documenting a range of unexplained phenomena that have contributed to the INA's reputation as a haunted site. One of the most frequent experiences described by guests involves doors opening seemingly on their own. Visitors have recounted waking in the middle of the night to the sound of a door slowly creaking ajar, despite being certain they had locked it. Some describe the door moving in a gentle, almost deliberate motion, as though an unseen hand is pushing it. One guest reported waking to find her room door wide open, the hallway beyond empty and silent, leaving only the chill of cold air and the sense that she had not been alone. These incidents are unnerving because they violate one of the most basic assumptions of safety, that the door barrier separates the guest from the outside world. At the Red Carpet Inn, that barrier seems permeable to forces unseen. Shadowy figures watching from corners are another phenomenon that guests frequently report. People describe feeling a presence in their room or the hallway, often sensing that they are being observed without seeing anyone clearly. In some cases, travelers have caught glimpses of a dark silhouette standing silently in a corner or just beyond the edge of their vision. One man staying on the second floor claimed to see a figure standing by the window, staring directly at him, only for it to vanish the moment he shifted his gaze. Staff members have also witnessed similar apparitions, noting that the figures often appear near doorways or corners of hallways and disappear when approached. These sightings create a profound sense of being watched and contribute to the eerie atmosphere. Footsteps pacing the hallways at night are another common occurrence at the Red Carpet Inn. Guests report hearing the slow, deliberate steps of someone walking back and forth outside their rooms, even when the hallways are completely empty. One visitor recounted lying in bed as the sound of heavy footsteps echoed past her door multiple times, only to stop abruptly when she summoned the courage to look. Others have described the sensation of movement combined with subtle changes in temperature, a cold draft following the sound of the footsteps, suggesting an otherworldly presence moving just beyond the tangible. Using night vision cameras, motion sensors, and audio recording devices, they have documented shadow forms captured on camera, unexplained noises, and sudden drops in temperature. Many recorded images show indistinct human-shaped shadows standing in hallways or near doors, appearing for brief moments before disappearing entirely. Audio recordings frequently pick up footsteps, whispers, and other ambient sounds consistent with guest testimonies. Investigators theorize that the inn may act as a residual energy site, where past events, emotions, or spirits continue to manifest in the present environment. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. Guests staying on the upper floors often report more frequent door movements, shadow sightings, and hallway footsteps. Staff members have noted that hallways near the older sections of the building exhibit unusual cold spots and heightened activity compared to newer wings. These patterns suggest that the hauntings may be linked to specific locations within the inn, possibly tied to historical events or long-past residents whose presence has left a lasting impression on the property. Despite the unsettling nature of these experiences, many travelers are drawn to the Red Carpet Inn because of its haunted reputation. Some visitors intentionally book rooms hoping to witness paranormal activity firsthand, bringing cameras, recording devices, or simply a heightened sense of alertness. Others are drawn by curiosity, eager to explore the inn and see for themselves whether the stories are true. Many leave with lasting memories, recounting their experiences to friends and family, and perpetuating the legend of the inn's supernatural occurrences. The hauntings at the Red Carpet Inn are not isolated or random. Reports from multiple generations of guests and staff consistently describe similar phenomena: doors opening unexpectedly, shadowy figures appearing in corners, and footsteps pacing empty hallways. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences creates a convincing pattern of paranormal activity that has made the inn a point of interest for both casual visitors and dedicated ghost hunters. The Red Carpet Inn in Tulsa, Oklahoma, offers more than a place to rest along a busy highway. Doors open mysteriously in the dead of night, shadowy figures watch silently from corners, and footsteps echo through empty hallways, creating an atmosphere charged with unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have captured evidence of these occurrences, lending credibility to the stories shared by countless guests. For travelers seeking both a place to stay and a brush with the unexplained, the Red Carpet Inn provides an experience where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist, leaving visitors with memories that are as haunting as they are unforgettable. The Stardust Motel in Flagstaff, Arizona, has long attracted travelers with its convenient location and classic roadside charm. During the day, it appears as a quiet, welcoming stop for visitors exploring the surrounding forests, mountains, and Route 66 landmarks. However, as night falls, the motel transforms into a place of eerie activity. Guests have reported disembodied whispers, lights turning on in empty rooms, shadowy figures moving quickly along corridors, and even spirits sitting on beds watching them. These accounts have given the Stardust Motel a reputation as one of the more haunted locations in northern Arizona, drawing curiosity seekers and paranormal enthusiasts alike. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Stardust Motel is the presence of disembodied whispers. Guests describe hearing faint murmurs and voices that seem to originate from empty rooms or hallways. These whispers often occur late at night, when the motel is quiet and other sources of sound are minimal. One guest recounted lying in bed when she heard a soft, almost conversational whisper coming from the corner of her room. When she called out to ask who was there, the voice abruptly stopped. Other visitors have reported hearing snippets of conversation or indistinct phrases that fade as they attempt to focus on them. The whispers create a sense of being observed and accompanied by unseen presences, intensifying the motel's unsettling atmosphere. Another common occurrence is lights turning on or off in rooms without any apparent cause. Guests have reported entering their rooms to find lamps, ceiling lights, or bedside lamps switched on, despite having left them off. Conversely, lights that were on when they arrived have sometimes turned off on their own. One visitor recalled returning to her room after a brief walk and discovering that every light in the space had flickered on simultaneously, illuminating the room in a stark, unnatural glow. Attempts to find an electrical explanation often fail, as breakers and timers remain unchanged. These unexplained changes in lighting contribute to the feeling that the motel is inhabited by forces beyond the ordinary. Shadowy figures moving swiftly along corridors are another hallmark of the Stardust Motel's hauntings. Guests often report catching glimpses of dark shapes darting from one end of a hallway to another, disappearing around corners before they can be seen clearly. One visitor staying on the second floor described hearing rapid footsteps, followed by a shadow passing just outside the door of her room. When she opened the door, the hallway was empty, yet she felt an intense chill and the lingering presence of summonia or something having been there. Staff members have noted similar activity, reporting fleeting silhouettes and sudden movements in areas that are otherwise quiet. These fleeting appearances give the impression of entities moving with purpose, yet remaining hidden from direct view. Perhaps the most unsettling reports involve spirits appearing in guest rooms, sometimes sitting on beds and observing visitors. Several guests have recounted waking in the middle of the night to see dark, human-like shapes sitting on or near the edge of the bed, watching silently. In some cases, these figures vanish the moment the guest attempts to focus on them. One man described seeing a figure dressed in early 20th century attire, seated upright on the corner of his bed, staring at him with an unreadable expression, before dissolving into the shadows. These encounters create a direct and intimate interaction with the paranormal, leaving guests with a lasting impression of the motel's haunting. Using night vision cameras, audio recorders, and motion sensors, they have captured shadow forms, unexplained noises, and sudden changes in light. Shadow forms, unexplained noises, and sudden changes in light. Many recordings include faint whispers, rapid footsteps, and objects appearing to move without explanation. Investigators theorize that the motel acts as a conduit for residual energy, preserving echoes of past events or the presence of spirits who remain tied to the property. Some suggest that the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena indicates a layered haunting, with multiple types of experiences occurring simultaneously. Certain areas of the motel appear more active than others. The second-floor corridors and rooms near the older wing consistently report more shadow sightings, whispers, and unexplained lighting. Staff and guests alike note that these areas feel heavier, colder, or more oppressive, suggesting that the energy is concentrated in specific parts of the building. Investigators propose that past events or strong emotional imprints in these areas may contribute to the intensity of the paranormal activity. Despite the unsettling experiences, the Stardust Motel continues to attract visitors intrigued by its haunted reputation. Some travelers hope to witness supernatural activity firsthand, bringing cameras and audio recorders. Others are drawn by the history of the area and the mystique of Route 66. Guests frequently leave recounting their experiences, sharing stories of whispers, fleeting shadows, and the sense of being watched. Paranormal investigators have documented these occurrences, confirming the experiences of countless guests. For those seeking both lodging and a connection to the unexplained, the Stardust Motel provides an unforgettable experience. The Cozy Corner Motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, has long been a familiar stop for travelers along the southwestern highways. By day, It appears as a quaint, unassuming motel, welcoming visitors with simple rooms and the promise of a restful night. But after sunset, the motel's atmosphere changes, and many guests have reported unsettling experiences. Objects move seemingly of their own accord. Shadowy figures vanish when approached, and strange lights flicker unpredictably in the dead of night. Paranormal investigators have examined the motel and documented cold spots, electronic voice phenomena, EVP, and other unexplained activity, confirming the accounts of countless visitors. One of the most commonly reported experiences at the Cozy Corner Motel involves objects moving without explanation. Guests have found chairs shifted from their original positions, doors opening and closing on their own, and personal belongings displaced overnight. One traveler recounted leaving his room at midnight, returning just an hour later to find a chair moved several feet from its original location and a small table tilted, as if someone had brushed past it. Another visitor described a cup sliding across the countertop while she slept, leaving her shaken and questioning whether the movement had a natural cause or something more sinister. These incidents are particularly unsettling because they occur in private spaces where guests feel safest, eroding the sense of security and creating a lingering tension throughout the night. Shadowy figures vanishing when approached are another frequent phenomenon. Many visitors report catching glimpses of dark, human-like shapes standing in hallways, corners, or doorways. When they move closer to investigate, the figures disappear instantly, leaving only empty space and the chilling feeling that something or something has been observing them. One guest staying on the second floor described seeing a tall shadow standing at the end of the corridor. When he cautiously approached, the figure vanished, yet he could still sense its presence, as if it lingered invisibly nearby. Staff members have also witnessed similar phenomena, noting fleeting silhouettes near the lobby and along the hallways of the older sections of the building. These experiences create an unnerving sense of interaction with the supernatural, reinforcing the motel's haunted reputation. Strange lights flickering in the dead of night are another hallmark of paranormal activity at the Cozy Corner Motel. Guests often report lights switching on and off without explanation, sometimes accompanied by a low hum or the sensation of cold air. One visitor described entering her room late at night to find the ceiling light dimly flickering, even though the electrical circuits had been checked and timers were set to off. The inconsistent illumination adds to the motel's eerie ambience, suggesting the presence of unseen forces manipulating the environment. Many guests interpret these light fluctuations as attempts to communicate or signal, enhancing the feeling that the motel is alive with unseen energy. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Cozy Corner Motel due to the frequency and consistency of these reports. Using EVP recorders, infrared cameras, and motion sensors, they have captured cold spots, faint voices, and shadow forms in multiple areas of the building. Many recordings include whispers, murmurs, or words that seem to respond to questions posed by investigators. Cold spots often correspond with locations where guests have reported the most intense activity, such as hallways near older rooms. These findings suggest that the motel may act as a residual energy site, where echoes of past events or lingering spirits continue to interact with the living. Certain sections of the motel appear more active than others. The older wing, in particular, is frequently cited by guests and staff for sightings of shadowy figures and unexplained object movement. Hallways in this area tend to feel colder and heavier, and the ambient energy is noticeably different from the newer parts of the building. Investigators speculate that the history of the property, including previous tenants and events that may have taken place decades ago, could be contributing to the heightened paranormal activity in these areas. Despite the unnerving experiences, many travelers are drawn to the Cozy Corner Motel because of its haunted reputation. Some visitors arrive hoping to witness paranormal phenomena firsthand, bringing cameras, voice recorders, or simply heightened awareness. Others are intrigued by the history of the motel and its location along the historic highways of New Mexico. Guests often leave recounting their experiences, whether it be objects moving inexplicably, fleeting shadowy figures, or mysterious flickering lights, ensuring that the legend of the motel continues to grow. The Cozy Corner Motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, offers more than a place to sleep. Objects move without explanation, Shadowy figures vanish when approached, and strange lights flicker unpredictably in empty rooms, leaving visitors with a lingering sense of unease. Paranormal investigators have documented cold spots and captured EVP activity, confirming the accounts of numerous guests. For those drawn to the unknown, the motel provides a chilling yet unforgettable experience, where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist, and the echoes of unseen presences continue to haunt the quiet halls. The Route 66 Motel in Kingman, Arizona, sits along the historic highway, a relic of the golden era of American road travel. By day, it appears as a simple, welcoming stop for motorists exploring the famous Route 66, with classic neon signage and rooms that promise comfort and rest. Yet as night falls, the motel reveals a more mysterious side. Locals and travelers alike have reported shadowy figures roaming the parking lot, whispers calling their names, and doors slamming on their own. These unexplained events have cemented the motel's reputation as a haunted site, attracting both the curious and those intrigued by the paranormal. One of the most commonly reported experiences at the Route 66 motel involves shadowy figures in the parking lot. Visitors describe seeing dark silhouettes moving between parked cars, sometimes standing still as if observing them. One traveler recounted arriving late in the evening and noticing a tall figure standing near the corner of the lot. As he approached, the figure seemed to dissolve into the darkness, leaving behind only the sensation of being watched. Other guests have reported seeing multiple shadowy shapes moving quickly along the lot, vanishing before they could be clearly identified. These fleeting appearances create an immediate sense of unease, suggesting the presence of entities tied to the motel or the road itself. Whispers calling out names are another frequent phenomenon at the Route 66 motel. Guests often report hearing their own names whispered softly in empty hallways or across the parking lot. One woman staying in the older section of the motel said she awoke to hear her name called repeatedly in a low, melodic tone, though she could see no one nearby. When she stepped outside to investigate, the parking lot was empty, yet the whispers continued for a few moments before fading entirely. This experience left her with a lingering sense that she had not been alone, and that some presence was attempting to communicate directly with her. Doors slamming without explanation is another hallmark of the motel's hauntings. Guests have described entering their rooms, only to have doors suddenly swing shut or burst open without any wind or human intervention. One man staying in a ground-floor room reported a door slamming so forcefully that it shook the walls, even though the hallway was empty. Another visitor recounted hearing repeated door slams in the middle of the night, each one echoing through the building and stopping only when he got out of bed to investigate. Paranormal investigators have shown a strong interest in the Route 66 motel due to the consistency of these reports. Using audio recorders, infrared cameras, and motion sensors, they have documented cold spots, unexplained sounds, and shadow forms in both the parking lot and inside the building. Many EVP recordings capture faint whispers, footsteps, or murmured phrases that correspond to guest accounts. Cameras have occasionally caught fleeting silhouettes moving across hallways or parking areas, appearing briefly before disappearing entirely. Investigators theorize that the motel may serve as a residual energy site, preserving the echoes of past events or lingering spirits who remain connected to the property or the historic route itself. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. The parking lot, particularly near the older sections of the property, is consistently cited for shadow sightings and strange sounds. Rooms in the original wing frequently report doors slamming or other unexplained activity, while hallways connecting older rooms seem to amplify whispers or sudden cold drafts. These patterns suggest that the history of the motel, along with its long-standing role as a stop along Route 66, may contribute to the paranormal activity that continues to draw attention. Despite the unsettling experiences, many travelers are drawn to the Route 66 motel because of its haunted reputation. Some visitors arrive with cameras, voice recorders, or simply heightened awareness, hoping to witness the paranormal firsthand. Others are intrigued by the combination of history and mystery, eager to explore the motel and its surroundings along the iconic highway. Guests frequently leave recounting experiences of shadowy figures, whispered names, and doors slamming on their own, ensuring that the legend of the motel continues to grow. The Route 66 Motel in Kingman, Arizona, offers more than a place to rest along a historic highway. Shadowy figures roam the parking lot, whispers call out to visitors in the quiet of night, and doors slam without human touch, creating an atmosphere thick with unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have documented cold spots, EVP activity, and fleeting shadows, confirming the experiences of countless guests. For those drawn to the unknown the motel provides, an unforgettable encounter with the supernatural, where the ordinary and the paranormal intersect, leaving travelers with a lingering sense of unease that persists long after they depart. The Maplewood Motel in Springfield, Missouri, has long been a popular stop for travelers passing through the Midwest. During the day, it offers a quiet, welcoming atmosphere, complete with neatly kept rooms and the soft hum of routine activity. Yet after dark, the motel transforms into a place of unease. Guests consistently report lights flickering violently, apparitions moving silently past rooms, and phantom footsteps echoing along empty hallways. Cold air pockets and sudden chills are frequently felt, leaving visitors with a lingering sense that something unseen is present. Over the years, these experiences have earned the Maplewood Motel a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the area. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Maplewood Motel is the violent flickering of lights. Guests describe lamps, overhead fixtures, and even hallway lighting that blinks rapidly, sometimes plunging rooms into complete darkness for seconds at a time. One visitor recounted entering his room after a long drive to find the ceiling light violently flickering on and off. The intensity of the strobe-like effect made him feel disoriented, as though time itself was slightly distorted. Another guest reported the hallway lights flickering in a rhythmic pattern that seemed almost deliberate, as if the building itself were trying to communicate. Electrical problems were ruled out on multiple occasions, leaving witnesses to believe the activity was of supernatural origin. Apparitions are another hallmark of the Maplewood Motel's hauntings. Guests have reported seeing shadowy figures walking silently past their rooms, sometimes visible through open doorways or reflected in mirrors. These figures often appear human in shape but lack clear facial features, giving them an eerie, ghostly quality. One woman staying in the older wing of the motel described seeing a dark figure glide past her room in the hallway. When she stepped into the corridor to investigate, the hallway was empty, yet she felt an unmistakable presence lingering nearby. Staff members have also reported similar sightings, noting shadowy shapes moving swiftly along corridors and vanishing suddenly without a trace. These fleeting apparitions contribute to the sense that the motel is inhabited by entities connected to its past or bound to its halls for unknown reasons. Phantom footsteps echoing through hallways are another common phenomenon. Guests often report hearing footsteps pacing back and forth outside their rooms, even when no other guests are present. One man described lying in bed when he heard the distinct sound of boots tapping along the hallway floor. The footsteps paused outside his door, then continued down the corridor before abruptly stopping. Many visitors report feeling a buildup of tension or fear coinciding with the sounds, suggesting that the presence making them is aware of their attention. In some cases, footsteps appear to follow guests as they walk through hallways, vanishing only when they enter a room or step outside. Cold air pockets and sudden chills are frequently reported by visitors, often accompanying other paranormal activity. Guests describe walking down hallways or entering rooms only to be met with an intense, localized drop in temperature. One guest recalled standing in the middle of the lobby when an icy draft swept over her, raising goosebumps and leaving her shivering despite warm weather outside. Investigators suggest that these cold spots may indicate the presence of spirits or residual energy, as they often coincide with apparitions or unexplained sounds. Many guests report that the cold intensifies during moments of heightened paranormal activity, further emphasizing the connection between physical sensations and unseen presences at the motel. Paranormal investigators have shown particular interest in the Maplewood Motel due to the frequency and consistency of these reports. Using infrared cameras, motion sensors, and EVP recorders, Investigators have documented shadowy figures, unexplained footsteps, and sudden changes in temperature. Some EVP recordings contain faint whispers, footsteps, and disembodied voices, seemingly responding to questions or appearing to react to investigator's movements. Motion-triggered cameras have captured fleeting shadows moving across hallways or near room entrances, providing visual evidence to support guest accounts. Many investigators believe that the motel serves as a site of residual energy, with past events leaving impressions that continue to interact with the living. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. The older wing, in particular, is frequently cited for sightings of apparitions, flickering lights, and chilling cold spots. Hallways in this area tend to feel heavier, as if the air itself carries a presence. Guests and staff alike note that these corridors are more active during the late-night hours, when the building is quiet and other noises are minimal. Investigators theorize that strong emotional energy or past occurrences may be concentrated in these areas, amplifying the intensity of the paranormal activity. Despite the unsettling experiences, the Maplewood Motel continues to attract visitors drawn by its haunted reputation. Some guests arrive hoping to witness supernatural phenomena firsthand, while others are intrigued by the history of the building and the stories that have accumulated over decades. Visitors frequently leave recounting experiences of flickering lights, shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, and sudden chills, further perpetuating the motel's legend. The Maplewood Motel in Springfield, Missouri, is more than just a roadside stop. Violent flickering lights, shadowy apparitions, phantom footsteps, and sudden cold pockets create an atmosphere thick with unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have documented these phenomena, confirming the experiences of countless guests. For those seeking both lodging and a brush with the supernatural, the Maplewood Motel provides an unforgettable encounter, where ordinary travel intersects with the unexplained, leaving visitors with chilling memories that linger long after they depart. The Desert Sands Motel in Tucumcari, New Mexico, is a classic stop along the historic Route 66, offering travelers a glimpse of nostalgia and the charm of mid-century American roadside culture. By day, it appears unassuming, with pastel-colored walls, neon signage, and rooms that promise comfort to weary travelers. However, as night falls, the motel reveals a far more mysterious side. Guests frequently report seeing ghostly travelers from decades past, doors opening suddenly without cause, and strange lights flickering along the hallways. Paranormal investigators visiting the site have captured shadow figures moving in rooms with no occupants, further confirming the motel's haunted reputation. One of the most common phenomena reported at the Desert Sands Motel is the appearance of ghostly travelers. Guests have described seeing figures dressed in clothing styles from the 1940s to the 1960s. One guest recounted returning from dinner late at night to see a man in a fedora standing near a row of vintage cars. When she tried to approach, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving her with a lingering sense that she had been observed by someone not of the present. Others have reported couples from bygone eras, appearing to walk through the halls as if replaying memories of their own past travels along Route 66. These spectral travelers often appear briefly before disappearing, creating an unsettling, ephemeral presence that leaves guests questioning what they saw. Doors opening suddenly is another frequent occurrence at the Desert Sands Motel. Guests have reported room doors swinging open without wind or human intervention, sometimes in the middle of the night or during quiet hours. One man described being awoken by the sound of a door crashing open down the hall, despite the hallway being empty. Another visitor recounted entering her room to find her door slowly creaking open on its own, as if inviting her to step out into the hall. The sensation is often accompanied by a sudden chill or the feeling of an unseen presence, suggesting that the actions of these doors may be connected to the spirits lingering within the building. Strange lights along the hallways are another hallmark of the motel's supernatural activity. Guests frequently report flickering bulbs, dim or fluctuating illumination, and even colored lights that appear momentarily before vanishing. One guest described walking down a corridor to find a series of overhead lights pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate, casting shadows that twisted and shifted unnaturally along the walls. Another visitor reported seeing a faint glow near the end of a hallway, which vanished when approached, leaving only the empty hallway and the hum of the building's electricity. These unexplained lights often coincide with sightings of apparitions or doors opening suddenly, reinforcing the idea that the motel is a site of concentrated paranormal energy. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Desert Sands Motel due to the consistency and frequency of these reports. Using infrared cameras, EVP recorders, and motion sensors, they have documented cold spots, shadow figures, and unexplained movements. Many of the shadow figures captured on camera appear in rooms that are otherwise empty, sometimes moving along hallways or sitting silently on beds. EVP recordings often reveal whispers, faint footsteps, or murmurs that seem to respond to investigators' questions. The combination of visual and auditory phenomena suggests that the motel may serve as a conduit for residual energy, preserving echoes of past visitors or travelers who once stayed at the motel. Certain areas of the Desert Sands Motel appear to be more active than others. Hallways near the older wings of the building, particularly rooms along the original structures, are frequently cited for sightings of ghostly travelers and flickering lights. The parking lot is another hotspot, with multiple reports of spectral figures standing among vehicles or walking along the lot as if retracing past journeys. Staff members have noted that paranormal activity tends to intensify late at night, when the motel is quiet and natural distractions are minimal. This pattern suggests that the building itself may amplify residual energy, allowing spirits or other entities to interact with the living more vividly. Despite the unsettling nature of these experiences, the Desert Sands Motel continues to attract visitors drawn by its haunted reputation. Some arrive with cameras and audio recorders, hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal. Others are intrigued by the history of the motel and its connection to the legendary Route 66. Guests frequently leave recounting their experiences of ghostly travelers, doors opening by themselves, and strange lights flickering along the hallways, ensuring that the legend of the motel continues to grow. The Desert Sands Motel in Tucumcari, New Mexico, is more than a roadside stop. Ghostly travelers from decades past wander the halls and parking lot. Doors open without explanation, and mysterious lights flicker along hallways, creating an atmosphere thick with unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have documented shadow figures moving through empty rooms, cold spots, and audio phenomena, confirming the experiences of countless guests. For those drawn to the unexplained, the Desert Sands Motel offers an unforgettable encounter with the supernatural, where echoes of the past intertwine with the present, leaving visitors with lingering chills and memories that persist long after they depart. The Riverside Motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, sits along the banks of a quiet stretch of the Rio Grande, a seemingly ordinary roadside stop that has earned a reputation among travelers for its unusual and unsettling phenomena. By day, it offers simple comforts, neat rooms, a small lobby, and the gentle murmur of the nearby river. But at night, the motel takes on a far stranger character. Guests frequently report seeing phantoms reflected in mirrors, shadowy figures passing silently by their doors, and whispers calling their names from empty corridors. These experiences have made the Riverside Motel a point of interest for paranormal enthusiasts and a source of chilling stories for casual travelers. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Riverside Motel involves phantoms appearing in mirrors. Guests describe catching glimpses of figures in reflective surfaces, often turning their heads to find no one present. One woman recounted brushing her hair in the bathroom mirror when she noticed the reflection of a man standing behind her, dressed in outdated attire. She spun around, only to find the hallway empty. Other visitors have seen fleeting images of entire groups reflected in mirrors. These encounters create a disorienting and eerie experience, leaving guests with the unnerving sense that the mirrors themselves are windows into another reality. Shadowy figures walking past doors are another hallmark of the Riverside Motel's hauntings. Guests frequently report glimpsing dark shapes in hallways or just beyond the threshold of their rooms. One traveler described sitting on his bed when he noticed a shadow glide past his door. pausing briefly as if observing him before continuing down the corridor. These shadowy presences often move silently, leaving no footprints or disturbance, enhancing the feeling that they belong to a realm beyond the physical. These shadowy presences often move silently, leaving no footprints or disturbance, enhancing the feeling that they belong to a realm beyond the physical. Whispers calling names in empty corridors are another unsettling experience reported by visitors. Guests have described hearing their own names spoken softly, usually in tones that are urgent, melodic, or just barely intelligible. One man recounted waking in the middle of the night to hear a whispered repetition of his name along the hallway outside his room. He stepped out, expecting to find another guest or a staff member, but the corridor was empty. Many reports suggest that these whispers are focused, as if the spirits or entities responsible are aware of the individual they are addressing. Some guests have felt a subtle pressure or pull along with the auditory phenomenon, a sense that the motel is attempting to engage with them directly. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Riverside Motel because of the consistency and intensity of these reports. Using infrared cameras, EVP recorders, and motion sensors, investigators have documented unusual activity in both guest rooms and hallways. Shadow figures have been caught on video moving through areas with no living occupants, and EVP recordings frequently capture faint whispers, footsteps, and murmurs. EVP recordings frequently capture faint whispers, footsteps, and murmurs that seem to correspond to guest reports. Investigators theorize that the motel may act as a focal point for residual energy, preserving echoes of past events or interactions that continue to interact with the living. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. Hallways in the older wing, near rooms that have been part of the motel for decades, are often cited for phantom sightings and whispering voices. Mirrors in these rooms seem particularly responsive, with multiple reports of ghostly figures appearing within their reflections. Guests staying in rooms near the river have also noted an increased frequency of shadowy figures and cold drafts, suggesting that both the building's history and its location may contribute to the paranormal energy experienced there. Despite the unsettling nature of these experiences, the Riverside Motel continues to attract visitors drawn by its haunted reputation. Some travelers come hoping to witness supernatural phenomena firsthand, while others are intrigued by the combination of history, mystery, and the motel's connection to the quiet riverbank. Guests frequently leave recounting experiences of phantoms in mirrors, shadowy figures walking past doors, and whispers calling their names in empty hallways, cementing the motel's place in local folklore. The Riverside Motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, offers more than a simple place to rest. Guests consistently report phantoms appearing in mirrors, shadowy figures moving silently past their doors, and whispers calling out from empty corridors. Paranormal investigators have documented visual and auditory phenomena, including shadow forms and EVP recordings, supporting the experiences of visitors. For those drawn to the unexplained, the Riverside Motel provides an unforgettable encounter with the supernatural, where reflections, shadows, and voices intertwine with reality, leaving travelers with lingering chills and an awareness that some presences remain long after the lights go out. The Coronado Motel in Flagstaff, Arizona, sits quietly along a stretch of road that has welcomed travelers for decades. By day, it is a simple roadside stop, offering modest rooms and a convenient location for visitors exploring northern Arizona. Yet as night falls, the motel transforms into a place of mystery and unease. Guests consistently report strange moving lights, apparitions of former visitors, and muffled cries from rooms that no longer exist. Over the years, these experiences have earned the Coronado Motel a reputation among locals and paranormal enthusiasts as a site where the past lingers in the present, and the boundary between the living and the unseen feels tenuous at best. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Coronado Motel involves strange moving lights. Guests describe lights that appear along hallways, flicker in rooms, or hover in areas where no electrical source exists. One visitor recounted walking down a corridor late at night when a small, amber-colored light seemed to float along the ceiling, moving as if guided by an invisible hand. When she tried to follow it, the light vanished suddenly, leaving the hallway dimly lit by the building's standard fixtures. Other guests have seen similar orbs or glowing shapes moving through parking lots, passing through walls, or disappearing into rooms without explanation. The lights are often described as intelligent or purposeful, giving the impression that they are tied to the spirits or residual energy lingering within the motel. Apparitions of old guests are another frequent phenomenon at the Coronado Motel. Travelers have reported seeing figures dressed in clothing from past decades, wandering hallways or standing silently near room entrances. One man recalled arriving late in the evening to find a figure sitting on the edge of his bed, dressed in attire reminiscent of the 1950s. When he blinked, the figure vanished, leaving him with a lingering sense of unease. Other visitors have seen groups of people moving through the lobby or parking lot, only for the area to be empty moments later. These apparitions often appear unaware of the living, as if replaying scenes from the motel's long history, yet their presence is unmistakable and chilling. Muffled cries from rooms that no longer exist are another unsettling aspect of the Coronado Motel's paranormal activity. Guests have described hearing faint, sorrowful sounds emanating from spaces that have been sealed or removed entirely from the building's layout. One woman reported sitting in her room when she distinctly heard the sound of a child crying from an adjoining room, only to learn from staff that no such room existed. Others have heard soft whispers or anguished voices coming from hallways or corners where renovations or room closures had erased any possibility of human presence. These auditory phenomena often coincide with sightings of apparitions or moving lights, suggesting that the building itself retains echoes of past occupants and events. Paranormal investigators have long been interested in the Coronado Motel because of these consistent reports. Using infrared cameras, motion detectors, and EVP recorders, investigators have documented unusual activity throughout the property. Shadow figures have been caught moving through hallways and rooms with no occupants. EVP recordings often capture faint whispers, crying, or indistinct murmurs. Motion-triggered cameras have recorded lights moving along corridors or hovering near walls. Many investigators theorize that the motel serves as a focal point for residual energy. Certain areas of the Coronado Motel appear more active than others. Hallways near the older sections of the building are frequently cited for sightings of apparitions and moving lights. The parking lot is also a hotspot for spectral activity, with multiple reports of ghostly figures moving among vehicles or fading suddenly into the night. Rooms on the west side of the property, in particular, seem prone to muffled cries and cold spots, suggesting that previous occupants may have experienced strong emotional events in those spaces. Staff have observed that paranormal activity tends to intensify late at night, when the building is quiet and shadows dominate the corridors. Despite the unnerving nature of these occurrences, the Coronado Motel continues to attract visitors drawn by its haunted reputation. Some arrive hoping to witness supernatural phenomena firsthand, while others are intrigued by the history of the building and its connection to Flagstaff's past. Guests frequently leave recounting experiences of moving lights, apparitions of former visitors, and muffled cries from rooms that no longer exist, cementing the motel's place in local lore and paranormal research. The Coronado Motel in Flagstaff, Arizona, is more than just a stop along a road. Strange moving lights float along hallways and parking lots. Apparitions of old guests appear unexpectedly, and muffled cries echo from rooms that have vanished long ago. Paranormal investigators have documented visual and auditory phenomena, confirming the experiences of visitors. The Coronado Motel offers an unforgettable encounter with the supernatural, where echoes of the past persist in the present, leaving guests with lingering chills, and the sense that some presences never truly leave. The Silver Spur Motel in Tucumcari, New Mexico, has long been a quiet stop for travelers journeying along historic Route 66. By day, it offers the classic charm of a roadside motel: simple rooms, a retro neon sign, and a sense of nostalgia for a bygone era of American travel. Yet by night, the Silver Spur Motel takes on a far more mysterious and unsettling character. Locals and guests alike have reported seeing ghostly cowboys wandering the lot, doors opening on their own, and footsteps echoing through empty hallways. These persistent accounts have made the motel a subject of fascination for paranormal enthusiasts and a source of spine-chilling stories for those who pass through Tucumcari. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Silver Spur Motel is the appearance of ghostly cowboys. Witnesses describe figures dressed in period-iteria wide-brimmed hats, boots, and long coats roaming the parking lot or lingering near the edges of the property. One visitor recounted stepping outside to stretch her legs and seeing a lone cowboy leaning against a post by the neon sign. As she approached, the figure slowly turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind only the faint echo of spurs clinking. Other guests have reported seeing groups of cowboys walking silently across the lot, pausing as if inspecting their surroundings before vanishing as mysteriously as they appeared. These spectral cowboys are said to evoke the spirit of the Old West, a lingering presence of travelers from a time when Route 66 was a vital artery of American life. Doors opening with no one present is another frequent occurrence at the Silver Spur Motel. Guests have reported room doors swinging open or closing on their own, sometimes accompanied by the soft creak of hinges and sudden drafts. One man described returning to his room after dinner to find the door ajar, even though he was certain he had locked it. Another guest recounted hearing the sound of a door slowly opening while lying in bed, and when she looked toward the hallway, it was empty. These incidents often happen during quiet hours, late at night, amplifying the sense of isolation and suspense. Some believe the doors act as portals, allowing spirits to move freely through the motel, while others feel that they are deliberate attempts to interact with the living. Footsteps echoing in empty hallways are a third hallmark of the Silver Spur Motel's paranormal activity. Visitors frequently report hearing the rhythmic sound of boots or shoes striking the floor, approaching or receding without any visible source. One guest described walking down a hallway when she heard heavy, deliberate steps following her, only for the sound to fade away when she stopped. Another reported hearing the echo of multiple pairs of footsteps in a long corridor while the motel was completely vacant. These sounds are often described as being heavy and deliberate, reminiscent of cowboys or travelers from another era, further connecting the paranormal activity to the spectral figures reported outside. Paranormal investigators have taken a keen interest in the Silver Spur Motel due to the consistency and intensity of these reports. Using infrared cameras, motion sensors, and EVP recorders, investigators have documented unusual activity throughout the property. Shadow figures have been observed moving in hallways or near room entrances where no guests are present. Recordings frequently capture faint whispers, creaking doors, and the sound of footsteps, matching the experiences described by visitors. Many investigators theorize that the motel's long history and its connection to Route 66 contribute to the residual energy, preserving echoes of the past and allowing them to interact with the living. Certain areas of the motel appear to be more active than others. The older sections of the building, particularly rooms near the original structure, are often cited for sightings of ghostly cowboys and phantom footsteps. Hallways along these wings are frequently reported to emit cold drafts and creaking noises, even when the motel is quiet. The parking lot, illuminated only by the neon sign at night, is another hotspot, with multiple sightings of cowboys wandering between vehicles or pausing near entrances before disappearing. Staff members note that paranormal activity tends to peak during late-night hours, when shadows dominate and the building is otherwise empty. Despite the eerie reputation of the Silver Spur Motel, it continues to attract visitors drawn by its haunted history. Some come hoping to witness paranormal phenomena firsthand, while others are intrigued by the nostalgia and lore surrounding Route 66. Guests often leave recounting experiences of ghostly cowboys roaming the lot, doors opening with no explanation, and footsteps echoing in empty hallways, ensuring that the motel's legend continues to grow. The Silver Spur Motel in Tucumcari, New Mexico, is more than just a place to rest along Route 66. Ghostly cowboys wander the parking lot, doors open without human intervention, and footsteps echo through empty hallways. Paranormal investigators have documented shadow figures, unexplained sounds, and other activity, confirming the accounts of visitors. For those drawn to the mysterious and the supernatural, the Silver Spur Motel offers an unforgettable encounter with the echoes of the past, leaving guests with lingering chills and the sense that the spirit of the Old West still walks among the living. The Travelodge in Amarillo, Texas, has long served as a convenient stop for travelers along Interstate 40, offering standard amenities and a straightforward roadside experience. Yet for many guests, the motel is far from ordinary. Over the years, reports have emerged of shadowy figures in parking areas, doors opening on their own, and cold air spots moving unpredictably throughout rooms. Paranormal investigators have captured orbs on video and recorded unexplained EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, sounds, giving credibility to the Motella-esque growing reputation as a haunted site. These consistent reports have made the Travelodge a point of interest for both curious travelers and paranormal enthusiasts seeking encounters with the unknown. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves shadowy figures appearing in the Motella-esque parking areas. Guests have described seeing dark silhouettes moving between cars or along the perimeter of the lot, often disappearing when approached or when light falls upon them. One visitor recounted returning late from a trip to find a figure standing near the far end of the lot, seemingly watching the building. When he walked closer, the figure vanished into thin air. Others have noted fleeting glimpses of movement from the corner of their Aisa shapes that seem human but lack detail, giving them an ethereal quality. These shadow figures often appear at night, when the lot is quiet and the neon lights cast long, distorted reflections across the asphalt, enhancing the sense of unease. Guests have reported room doors swinging open without any human intervention, sometimes accompanied by the soft creak of hinges and sudden drafts of cold air. One woman described returning to her room after a late dinner to find the door slightly ajar, despite having locked it earlier. Another guest heard the sound of a door slowly opening while lying in bed, only to find the hallway completely empty when he investigated. These incidents occur most often during the late-night hours and give the impression of an invisible presence moving through the building, interacting with the environment in subtle but unmistakable ways. Cold air spots moving throughout rooms are another unsettling phenomenon reported by visitors. Guests frequently describe sudden drops in temperature, sometimes localized to one corner of a room or moving along the floor. One traveler reported feeling a freezing draft pass directly through her as she sat on the bed, causing her to shiver uncontrollably even though the air conditioning was off. Others have noted these cold spots coinciding with other paranormal activity, such as doors opening or shadow figures appearing, suggesting a connection between the temperature fluctuations and the presence of spirits or residual energy. Paranormal teams investigating the Travelodge have documented these experiences using a variety of tools. Infrared cameras have captured shadowy shapes moving across hallways and parking areas, while motion detectors have recorded activity in rooms that are otherwise unoccupied. EVP recorders have captured faint whispers, murmurs, and occasional calls of names, even when no guests or staff are present. Orbs of light have also been recorded on camera, sometimes appearing to move intentionally around rooms or hallways. Investigators speculate that the motel may act as a focal point for residual energy, preserving echoes of past events or presences that continue to interact with the living. Certain areas of the Travelodge appear to be more active than others. Hallways near the older sections of the building, particularly rooms that have remained largely unchanged over the decades, are often cited for door activity. The parking lot is a hotspot for shadow sightings, with figures appearing and disappearing near vehicles. Staff members note that paranormal occurrences tend to peak during the hours after midnight, when the building is quiet and shadows dominate the hallways and lot. Guests staying in these areas often report multiple experiences within a single night, reinforcing the sense that certain locations within the motel are more prone to supernatural activity. Despite its eerie reputation, the Travelodge continues to attract visitors, some drawn by the Motella-esque haunted history and others by curiosity or the thrill of potential paranormal encounters. Many guests leave recounting experiences of shadowy figures, doors opening inexplicably, and cold spots moving through their rooms. Paranormal enthusiasts visit with cameras, EVP recorders, and infrared equipment, hoping to capture evidence of the unexplained. These reports have contributed to the motel's enduring mystique and cemented its place in local ghost lore. The Travelodge in Amarillo, Texas, is more than just a convenient roadside stop. Shadowy figures haunt the parking areas, doors open without explanation, and cold air spots move unpredictably through rooms. Paranormal investigations have captured orbs and EVP recordings, confirming the accounts of guests and adding to the motel's reputation as a site of supernatural activity. For those intrigued by the unknown, the Travelodge offers an encounter with the unexplained, leaving visitors with lingering chills, and the sense that the motel holds presences that refuse to be ignored. The Route 66 in Gallup, New Mexico, has long been a stop for travelers journeying along the historic Mother Road. By day, it functions as a standard roadside inn, offering comfort and convenience to visitors exploring the desert landscapes of New Mexico. However, as night falls, the inn takes on an eerie, otherworldly atmosphere. Guests have reported seeing shadowy figures moving silently along hallways, lights flickering without explanation, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing through empty corridors. Over the years, these persistent accounts have given the Route 66 a reputation as one of the more haunted locations along the legendary highway. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at the Route 66 Inn. Visitors describe shapes that resemble human silhouettes, gliding along corridors or lingering near room entrances. One traveler recounted returning to his room late at night, only to notice a dark figure standing at the far end of the hallway. As he approached, the figure slowly vanished, leaving him with a lingering chill. Other guests have seen fleeting forms from the corner of their eyes, shapes that seem solid at first but dissolve when directly observed. These apparitions are often described as moving with purpose, as if retracing footsteps from a bygone era. And their presence creates a palpable tension that many visitors find difficult to shake. Lights flickering without cause is another common occurrence reported by guests. Hallway lamps, room fixtures, and even neon signs sometimes flicker or dim spontaneously. One woman described sitting in her room when the ceiling light began pulsing on and off, despite the switch being firmly in the off position. Another guest noticed that the hallway lights would blink only when he passed certain doors, giving the impression that the building itself was responding to his movement. These electrical anomalies often accompany other supernatural experiences, such as shadowy figures or unexplained sounds, reinforcing the impression that the inn is a conduit for paranormal activity. Footsteps pacing along empty corridors are another unsettling hallmark of the Route 66 Inn. Guests frequently hear the sound of shoes or boots moving along the floors above or beside their rooms, often accompanied by the subtle creak of floorboards. One visitor described hearing a slow, deliberate rhythm of footsteps following her as she walked down a hallway, only for the sound to stop abruptly when she turned to look. Others have reported hearing multiple sets of footsteps in long corridors, echoing as if an invisible crowd were moving through the inn. These sounds are often heavy and purposeful, reminiscent of travelers or workers from decades past, adding a historical dimension to the inn's spectral activity. Paranormal investigators have documented many of these reported phenomena using infrared cameras, motion sensors, and EVP recorders. Shadow figures have been observed moving along hallways, sometimes passing through walls or disappearing into rooms. EVP sessions have captured faint whispers, murmurs, and unexplained sounds matching the accounts of guests, while motion-activated cameras have recorded lights flickering and orbs of light moving across empty spaces. Investigators theorize that the Route 66 acts as a focal point for residual energy, preserving echoes of past events and allowing them to manifest in ways visible or audible to the living. Certain areas of the inn are particularly prone to paranormal activity. Hallways near the original structure, built during the heyday of Route 66, are often cited for shadow sightings and unexplained footsteps. Rooms in older wings frequently experience flickering lights and sudden cold spots, leaving guests feeling exposed to invisible presences. The parking lot and entryways are also hotspots, with reports of figures appearing briefly and vanishing, sometimes as guests arrive or depart. Staff members note that activity intensifies during late-night hours when the inn is quiet and shadows dominate the hallways and rooms. Despite its reputation, the Route 66 continues to draw visitors intrigued by its haunted history. Many come hoping to witness paranormal phenomena firsthand, while others are captivated by the mystique of Route 66 and the stories embedded in the Ina-S past. Guests often leave recounting encounters with shadowy figures, flickering lights, and footsteps echoing in empty corridors, stories that continue to feed the Ina-S legend and attract the curious and the brave alike. The Route 66 in Gallup, New Mexico, is more than a simple roadside stop. Shadowy figures glide along hallways, lights flicker without cause, and footsteps echo in empty corridors. Paranormal investigations have captured shadow forms, EVP recordings, and visual anomalies, supporting the accounts of visitors and adding credibility to the Ina-S haunted reputation. For those drawn to the unexplained, the Route 66 offers a chilling encounter with the past, a place where echoes of previous travelers persist and the ordinary becomes intertwined with the supernatural. The Route 66 a place where echoes of previous travelers persist and the ordinary becomes intertwined with the supernatural. The Mesa Motel in Kingman, Arizona, has long been a familiar stop for travelers making their way along historic Route 66. By day, it offers a simple, retro roadside experience. Clean rooms, a small lobby, and a parking lot framed by the desert's wide-open skies. But as the sun sets and night blankets the area, the motel takes on a far more unsettling character. Guests frequently report encounters with strange figures in the parking lot, doors opening on their own, and whispered voices echoing through empty hallways. Over the years, these accounts have built the Mesa Motel's reputation as one of the more haunted stops along the Mother Road, drawing both curious travelers and paranormal investigators. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Mesa Motel is the appearance of strange figures in the parking lot. Guests describe dark, human-like shapes that move slowly between vehicles or linger near the edges of the property. One visitor recounted arriving late at night to see a shadowy figure standing beneath the neon sign. When he stepped closer, the figure slowly dissolved into the darkness, leaving him with a chilling sense of unease. Others have witnessed fleeting movements from the corner of their Aisa shapes that seem solid, but vanish whenever they are directly observed. Many describe the figures as dressed in outdated clothing, evoking travelers from decades past, a spectral echo of the road's heyday. Doors opening without anyone around is another frequently reported experience. Visitors have recounted moments when their room doors swing open or closed seemingly on their own. In one case, a guest returned from dinner to find the door to her room ajar, despite having locked it herself. On another occasion, a man lying in bed heard the unmistakable sound of a door creaking open, only to find the hallway empty when he investigated. These unexplained movements often occur late at night, heightening the sense that the motel is alive with an unseen presence. Guests have described the phenomenon as deliberate, almost as if the entities are inviting or warning the living to notice them. Whispered voices are another unsettling aspect of the Mesa Motel's nocturnal activity. Guests frequently report hearing soft murmurs or indistinct phrases drifting through the hallways, often when no one else is present. One traveler described hearing a string of whispered names echoing outside his room, accompanied by the faint scent of smoke or desert air. Another guest reported hearing a conversation in a language she could not understand, seemingly coming from the empty corridor. These disembodied voices often accompany other paranormal events, such as shadowy figures in the parking lot or doors moving on their own, suggesting that the spirits at the Mesa Motel are both aware of and interactive with their environment. Paranormal investigators have shown a keen interest in the Mesa Motel, using infrared cameras, motion detectors, and EVP recorders to document its activity. Investigators have captured shadowy figures in parking lots and hallways, along with orbs of light that appear to move deliberately through rooms. EVP sessions often reveal whispers and murmurs consistent with guest reports, sometimes including names or phrases that suggest communication attempts. Many paranormal experts theorize that the motel serves as a focal point for residual energy, preserving echoes of past travelers and events, allowing them to manifest in ways perceptible to the living. Certain areas of the Mesa Motel appear to be more active than others. The older wings of the building, particularly those that have remained largely unchanged since the motel's early days, are often cited for door movements and cold spots. Hallways near these sections frequently produce whispered voices and the sense of being observed. The parking lot, illuminated by the neon sign at night, is the primary location for shadowy figure sightings. Staff members report that activity is often strongest between midnight and 3 a.m., when the motel is quiet and shadows dominate the hallways and exterior. Guests staying in these areas are most likely to experience multiple phenomena within a single night. Despite its eerie reputation, the Mesa Motel continues to attract visitors intrigued by its haunted history. Many guests come hoping to witness paranormal activity firsthand, while others are drawn by the motel's nostalgic connection to Route 66. Visitors often leave recounting sightings of strange figures in the parking lot, doors opening inexplicably, and whispers echoing through empty hallways. These experiences contribute to the ongoing mystique of the Mesa Motel, making it a destination for those curious about the unknown. The Mesa Motel in Kingman, Arizona, is more than a simple roadside stop. Strange figures wander the parking lot, doors open without explanation, and whispered voices echo through empty corridors. Paranormal investigations have documented shadow forms, EVP recordings, and other anomalies, supporting guest accounts and enhancing the motel's haunted reputation. For those seeking encounters with the unexplained, the Mesa Motel offers a chilling glimpse into a place where the past refuses to remain silent, and the spirits of travelers continue to roam the night. The Old Town Motel in Litchfield, Illinois, has long been a convenient stop for travelers navigating historic Route 66. By day, it offers the expected comforts of a roadside motel: clean rooms, a modest lobby, and a quiet parking area. Yet as night falls, the atmosphere changes, revealing a side of the motel that many guests find unnerving. Locals and visitors alike report encounters with phantoms of travelers lost long ago, shadowy figures appearing in hallways, and cold spots moving unpredictably throughout the building. Shadowy figures appearing in hallways, and cold spots moving unpredictably throughout the building. These persistent experiences have established the Old Town Motel as one of the more haunted stops along the legendary highway, attracting both curious tourists and paranormal investigators. The most frequently reported phenomenon involves phantoms of travelers from decades past. Guests often describe seeing the fleeting silhouettes of men and women moving through the motel's corridors, appearing as if retracing steps from a bygone era. One visitor recounted returning to her room late at night to see a shadowy figure walking slowly down the hallway, its form vaguely human but slightly transparent. When she called out or approached, the figure vanished into the darkness. Others have reported seeing figures dressed in outdated clothing lingering near doors or in the parking area, giving the impression that the motel preserves echoes of travelers who never fully left. Shadowy figures are a consistent theme throughout the Old Town Motel. Visitors frequently report seeing dark, humanoid shapes moving along hallways, sometimes vanishing when observed directly. One guest described walking down a corridor when a shadow passed across the wall in the shape of a person, disappearing instantly when he turned to look. Another visitor noted seeing a figure standing at the far end of a hallway, motionless yet unmistakably present, only for it to vanish moments later. These apparitions often appear more active in the older sections of the motel, which have remained largely unchanged since the building's original construction, suggesting a connection between the lingering energy and the physical history of the structure. Cold spots moving unpredictably throughout the motel are another hallmark of its paranormal activity. Guests report sudden drops in temperature that seem to travel along hallways or sweep through rooms without explanation. One traveler described a chilling draft passing directly through him while he sat on the bed, leaving him shivering despite warm air outside. Others have noted these cold spots coinciding with sightings of shadowy figures or phantom sounds, implying that these temperature fluctuations may be tied to the presence of spirits. Some rooms are more prone to these experiences than others, particularly those along the original wing of the motel, which many believe retains the strongest traces of past activity. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous incidents at the Old Town Motel using a variety of equipment. Infrared cameras have captured fleeting shadow figures in hallways and parking areas. Motion sensors frequently register activity in rooms that are otherwise empty. EVP recorders have picked up whispers, faint murmurs, and occasional phrases that appear to respond to visitors' presence. Orbs of light have also been photographed moving along corridors or hovering near doorways. Investigators theorize that the motel may act as a focal point for residual energy, preserving the memories and presence of past travelers who, for reasons unknown, continue to linger in the building. Certain areas of the Old Town Motel appear particularly active. The older wing, consisting of rooms that have changed little over the decades, is often the site of shadow sightings, cold spots, and doors opening on their own. Hallways leading to this section are frequently reported as places where guests feel watched or followed by unseen presences. The parking area has also been noted for apparitions, particularly around dusk or late at night when the lot is empty and shadows stretch long across the pavement. Staff members report that activity seems strongest between midnight and 3 a.m. When the motel is quiet, hallways are empty, and the temperature drops noticeably in certain areas. Despite its eerie reputation, the Old Town Motel continues to attract guests intrigued by its haunted history. Many come hoping to witness paranormal activity firsthand, while others are drawn by the nostalgia of Route 66 and the idea of staying somewhere steeped in decades of history. Visitors often leave recounting encounters with shadowy figures, sudden cold spots, and the sensation of being watched. Stories that reinforce the motel's reputation as a site of unexplained phenomena. The Old Town Motel in Litchfield, Illinois, is far more than a simple roadside stop. Phantoms of travelers lost long ago wander its corridors. Shadowy figures appear and vanish in hallways, and cold spots move unpredictably through rooms. Paranormal investigations have documented shadow forms, EVP recordings, and temperature anomalies, supporting the accounts of guests and staff alike. For those drawn to the unexplained, the Old Town Motel offers a chilling encounter with the past, a place where echoes of long-gone travelers persist, and the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary under the cover of night. The Twilight Motel in Tulsa, Oklahoma, has long been a familiar stop for travelers navigating the highways of the region. By day, it functions like any typical roadside motel, offering modest accommodations, a small lobby, and parking for guests. Yet as darkness falls, the motel takes on an unsettling character that has been reported by numerous visitors over the years. Guests frequently describe figures vanishing as they approach, strange lights appearing in empty rooms, and disembodied voices calling out in the dead of night. These persistent reports have established the Twilight Motel as one of the more haunted locations in Oklahoma, attracting thrill seekers, paranormal enthusiasts, and investigators alike. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Twilight Motel is the sudden appearance and disappearance of shadowy figures. Guests describe seeing human-like shapes in hallways, parking areas, or even inside their rooms. One traveler recounted checking into a room late at night and noticing a figure standing silently near the far corner. When he called out or tried to approach, the figure faded into the shadows, leaving him with a lingering sense of unease. Other visitors have reported glimpsing figures moving along hallways, only for them to vanish when looked at directly. Many of these apparitions are said to resemble travelers from decades past, as if the motel preserves echoes of those who once passed through its doors. Strange lights in empty rooms are another hallmark of the Twilight Motel's paranormal activity. Guests have described lamps and ceiling fixtures flickering or glowing even when switched off, often in rooms that are unoccupied. One woman reported seeing a soft, pulsing light emanating from the corner of her room, which would intensify when she moved closer, only to disappear entirely when she attempted to investigate. In other instances, small orbs of light have been captured on camera, moving slowly across the room or hovering near objects, leaving no apparent source for their illumination. Many visitors describe these lights as eerie but fascinating, often accompanied by a sensation of being watched or a sudden drop in temperature. This phenomenon has left many unanswered questions. Disembodied voices calling out in the dead of night are perhaps the most unsettling experience reported at the Twilight Motel. Guests frequently hear whispers or faint shouts that seem to come from empty corridors or adjacent rooms. One man recalled hearing his name called softly while lying in bed, though no one else was present in the motel at the time. Another guest reported hearing fragments of conversation in a language he did not recognize, drifting through the hallway outside his door. These voices are often accompanied by other paranormal phenomena, such as shadowy figures or unexplained lights, suggesting an interactive presence that can respond to the living in mysterious ways. Using infrared cameras, motion sensors, and EVP recorders, investigators have captured shadow figures moving along hallways, doors opening on their own, and small orbs of light appearing in rooms without explanation. EVP sessions have picked up faint murmurs, whispers, and occasional phrases that appear to respond to investigator's questions. Some recordings suggest communication attempts by entities that remain unseen, reinforcing the experiences reported by guests. The combination of visual, auditory, and physical evidence has made the Twilight Motel a point of interest for paranormal researchers studying residual energy and haunted locations. Certain areas of the motel are particularly active. Hallways along the older sections of the building are frequently cited for sightings of shadowy figures and flickering lights. Rooms in these wings often experience sudden temperature drops, unexplained noises, and visual anomalies. The parking lot is also a hotspot for paranormal activity, especially during late-night hours when few guests are present. Staff members note that incidents often occur between midnight and 3 a.m., a time when the motel is quiet and shadows dominate both interior and exterior spaces. Guests staying during these hours are more likely to experience multiple phenomena, sometimes within the span of a single night. Despite its eerie reputation, the Twilight Motel continues to draw visitors intrigued by its haunted history. Many come hoping to witness paranormal activity firsthand, while others are drawn by curiosity or the nostalgia of classic roadside motels. Guests often leave recounting encounters with figures that vanish as they approach, strange lights in unoccupied rooms, and voices calling out in the night. These first-hand accounts, combined with documented paranormal evidence, have reinforced the Motel's standing as one of the more haunted locations in Tulsa. The Twilight Motel in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is far more than a typical roadside stop. Shadowy figures vanish unexpectedly, unexplained lights glow in empty rooms, and disembodied voices echo through hallways. Paranormal investigations have captured orbs, shadow movements, and EVP recordings, supporting the experiences of guests and staff alike. For those drawn to the unknown, the Twilight Motel offers a chilling glimpse into a place where the past refuses to remain silent, and the supernatural remains intertwined with the ordinary under the cover of night. Where the past refuses to remain silent, and the supernatural remains intertwined with the ordinary under the cover of night. Under the cover of night. These 25 haunted motels along Route 66 remind us that the past never truly leaves the roadside. Shadowy figures, whispering voices,